Hey, Andrew.
Yes, Steven?
You know how we romanticize the days of going out to our local video store and sifting through endless amounts of movies, searching for our favorite films, and maybe even finding some hidden gems?
Oh, yes, I know it all too well. That used to be my favorite thing to do. Unfortunately, everything is online now.
Well, what if I told you that there was a place online where you could get some of them same thrills as going to the video store?
Are you talking about Orbit DVD?
I knew you knew what I was talking about. Orbit DVD is located in Asheville, North Carolina, and online with OrbitDVD.com, they bring you everything your physical media heart desires.
Yeah, they have an awesome website that stays up to date with the latest releases from all of your favorite boutique labels as well as studio releases. Not only do they carry American labels such as Criterion Collection, Severin Films, Vinegar Syndrome, and Warner Archive, but they get routine shipments on imports from companies such as 88 Films, Arrow Video, Imprint, and so much more.
And with the option to sell or trade your used copies for cash or store credit, they really bring that video store vibe to you. So go to OrbitDVD.com and stock up on your Blu-rays.
And tell them Chasing Labels sent you.
Welcome, everybody. Here we are on another episode of Chasing Labels. I'm your host, Stephen Billings, and with me, as always, is your other host, Andrew Cabral. How you doing, man?
Doing good, Steven. Doing good. Back here for spine number 84. Hopefully I got that correct.
84.
I can never keep track of these. I mean, I try to, I even have them on on my
didn't
desktop.
we confirm it right before the episode?
You did, but you know what? Sometimes I just don't trust you entirely.
It's weird because I get made fun of for how I can't pronounce names. You can't remember the number I just told you right before we started.
You know what it is? It's like my brain can only hold so much, and I gotta prioritize what it holds, and it's usually useless movie trivia. That's
Okay.
It needs to hold.
Okay. Well, I can't hold that against you. That's useful. That's useful.
Yes, it is.
It's useful when you're trying to get girls. It's useful.
It impresses everybody, really.
It impresses, yes.
I tell you, when I sweep the categories on Jeopardy every night that have to do with movies, the crowd goes wild.
Yeah.
And by the crowd, I mean no one.
The dog.
Yeah. So this week, we once again have another special guest coming in. Someone from a label that we've talked about or has been brought up at least here on this podcast so many times. That is from Mondo Macabro. And who do we have, Steven?
We have Mr. Jared Auner, who is kind of a jack of all trades over there. He does a little bit of everything. They're a small company, and they've been around for a while, but he kind of plays into a lot of different facets, whether it be getting the orders together or dealing with you guys directly, figuring out issues and things like that. And of course he plays a hand in some of the creative stuff too as well. And of course he just started a new label, Neon Eagle, with Jesse over at Diabolic DVD. And so yeah, we get into all that stuff in this interview, and of course, as we do, we like to get into their beginnings and their love of movies, and we just see where the conversation goes. So here we are on Spy number 84 with our guest, Jared Auner.
Yeah, no problem. Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Well, so just in general, Jared, how you doing? How's everything going day to day for you?
It's pretty good. It's a little bit quiet right now. Always busy, but it's a little bit more quiet than usual. We're just waiting for all those Halloween pre-order stuff. Is still in production. So waiting for that to get finished so we can start sending those out. So awesome. Sort of in a holding pattern right now.
Awesome, man. Awesome. So, as I was describing you working for Mondo Macabro, I say jack of all trades because you literally do tons of stuff. Try to describe to people what are all the different types of jobs that you do for Mondo.
The basic stuff I do, I mean, the sort of bread and butter, what I actually get paid to do is I do the mail order. If you direct order from the Mondo Macabro page, the Big Cartel page, I'm the person who's going to be fulfilling that order, printing up your postage, packaging up. If it gets screwed up, it's my fault. So if anyone out there has ever had an order get screwed up, it's my fault. And so that's the biggest part I do is I run that web page, and then I do the social media stuff. I run the Facebook and the Twitter, and the to a lesser extent the Instagram, which is not all that active. I just put up stuff whenever we're about to release a put up new pre-orders. So that's the essential. A lot of the day-to-day stuff that I do for Mondo Macabro is just sort of maintaining those websites and fulfilling orders. But because it is a small company, it's just me and Pete Toombs, who is the founder of the company. Pete Toombs, he wrote the books Mondo Macabro and Immoral Tales, and he started it in the UK back in the early 2000s. Since it is just the two of us, I also pitch in. I do a lot of helping out with the creation of extras for the releases, a lot of just curation for the films that we do, and sometimes I even make deals for movies. I contact people who own movies, and usually just by email, and just try to make deals. So I do several things. So.
Yeah, it's great, man. That's so was your what was your what would you say was your qualification before? Like, what was the you joining in on Mondo Macabro? Where was that beginning for you to where you've got now when it comes to all these different jobs? You like, is this something like a thrown into the fire and you just kind of learned it as you went, or
yeah, I had no qualifications whatsoever.
Nice. Well, hey,
no, I mean it is.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky. I was just sort of in the right place at the right time. I had gotten to know Pete over the years through email. Just being a big fan. I was, I haven't been with the company forever. I started working probably around 2012, 2013. I started doing running their blog page, and it just sort of grew from there, and then running the Facebook page, and then eventually making money through doing the mail order thing. And that was sort of my big, I just noticed that they didn't have a direct sale outlet, and that was increasingly a thing towards the mid 2000s or the mid 20 teens.
Yeah.
Was that's the way to make money, and that is the way to make money in this business. You're not going to make a ton of money just doing sales through Amazon or whatever. So that was my sort of contribution, was saying, hey, I'll come in and I'll run the direct sales. I'm in the US, which is where Mondo Macabro releases, even though they're run from the UK. Pete's in London.
Yeah.
So he couldn't, fulfill orders for the US from London. So I just, just made him a sort of business proposition, sort of laid out what I would do, and we just worked it out. Yeah. So that's sort of how I got started. And I had some background in doing mail order stuff. I was running a mail order outfit for a large used bookstore chain. I ran the Seattle portion of it for a while, and so I had some background in doing that. So I just, it was just it. It was really, I'm just lucky. I was in the right place at the right time. I'm just a fan like you guys are.
Yeah.
I don't have any really special qualifications. I'm not an expert on anything. I just, really love this stuff. I'm a collector. As you can see, this is just part of my collection. I'm a collector.
I thought they were cardboard cutouts, man. I thought.
Yeah, it's just
that is a
blank
green screen background.
Yeah. So, and that's really it. It just, I got really lucky, and and sort of the suggestions that I made and sort of the things that we started doing were successful and helped us. Mondo Macabro was only doing like one or two, maybe like 1 to 3 releases a year at the point when I joined. In the 2000s, it was more prolific during the DVD era, and then after, and sort of when the DVD sort of era sort of dying off around the recession in 2008. Mondo Macabro never went away like some labels did, but they stopped releasing, being like every month or so. It was just, like I say, 1 or 2 times a year. So and by the time I joined, that was sort of let's get back up to doing maybe we'll do 6 a year.
Yeah.
And now that's moved up, so now we're doing like almost 10 to 12 a year now.
Yeah,
which is pretty
That's
good.
great. That's great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I was about. I was in my mind. There was a weird comparison to your entrance into Mondo Macabro was like Eddie Murphy coming to Saturday Night Live. He saved it in a way. That's good.
That's a
Yeah, I mean,
comparison
now
and a
who
half.
knows what would have happened, but of course, I
Oh,
think
yeah.
obviously your presence helped open up an avenue for them.
Well,
To
it
yeah,
also shows that, the changing of the time when it comes to the industry,
Mm.
it keeps going through like phases, not phases, but like
Oh, for sure.
evolutionary changes.
yeah,
Yeah,
Like you
yeah,
were just saying, when DVD was fading away, uh, for the most part, but and then HD was becoming the norm. Blu-ray
yeah.
had won the format wars and had now taken over as the dominant format for about a decade now, for the most part. Even though DVDs are still, I still see the graphic like every month or every couple months or so where it shows like the pie chart of, um, uh, DVDs and Blu-rays and 4Ks. DVD is still like 2/3 of the pie chart
But
of people
it's interesting,
buying.
but that's for like the wider public.
yeah, I was
Right,
going to
That
right,
is
say that.
not indicative of like the particular market that we're a part of.
Yeah,
right.
We stopped
It
doing DVDs
selective.
entirely because we get literally zero sales. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we
I,
we still sell some stuff on DVD that we haven't upgraded. We still have the ability to sell certain titles, and those will sell just because they're not available anywhere else. But if it's something that's available on DVD and Blu-ray, I mean, I can tell you, and you'll hear this from other companies too. Those DVDs don't sell at all.
mm,
So I hear, I sometimes hear that. I sometimes, will see people who want to argue against HD or that it's not necessary or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, well, if you look, DVD sales still dominate." But
yeah,
it's really that's deceptive
yeah,
for for our part of the
it's
our part of the
really
thing.
there's so many facets, as you probably know way more than me or Steven or maybe many others listening. There's so many levels to the market for when it comes to physical media for movies. You know what I mean? There's so many different playing fields. Like you just said, what happens in the kind of the boutique market is way different than like the
Very
mainstream
much.
studio
Mm.
market. Just different levels, different things going on. And I would say just from seeing, since we've been doing the show and even beforehand, the boutique market has definitely adopted the newer formats quicker and faster and
Yeah,
kind of really thrown themselves into it. When it comes to HD or now even like 4K markets,
yeah,
it just, they just kind of change with the times very much quicker than other people do.
yeah. And it's funny because Mondo Macabro is actually a little bit behind usually when it's come to these formats, just because, like I said, we're a smaller company, and Pete is he's kind of old school and a bit more conservative when it comes to this stuff. And is a bit always worried, like putting, if we put ourselves out there too much. That was actually one of the other things that I did when I started working more for Mondo Macabro, was convincing him that Blu-ray was, you know, the what things were moving towards.
yeah,
I mean, I pretty much convinced him, along with David McKenzie, the guy who was doing authoring at the time for us, that this is the way to go. This is the whole market is going to be Blu-ray at some point or another. He was very sort of reluctant, and so by the time I fully joined and started the web store, that was like, okay, all right, we're going to start releasing more titles on Blu-ray. The big ones that we've got. We'll see how that goes. And within a year, it was like, oh well, we're not going to do
yeah.
DVDs
There
anymore.
you go.
Well, I
You
mean,
were ahead of the time.
I mean, even
Yeah,
even some bigger companies have realized that they need to be smart about going into another format. Like for instance, when we've talked to John and Sam from Indicator,
mm.
they're just about to get into 4K, and they took their time because they wanted to see how it worked with other labels.
Yeah,
They wanted to see
yeah.
the good and the bad things, the mistakes that were made, maybe, and then decide to go into it so
Yeah,
that
and
they don't
that
make them
was
same
from
mistakes.
that was from like a production standpoint. I think from them just to see how the technology worked really for the
Well, I
most
mean,
part because
because they do a
when we
lot of their
talked to
own. They're
them,
doing starting to do their own restorations
yeah,
too.
when
So
we talked to them, it was kind of very much a learning curve to kind of see, what this new format, get all the kinks worked out early on. When it
yeah,
comes to any new tech, it always takes like a couple of years before things get fixed. There's always early problems with anything. I mean, there
Yeah.
was early problems with HD and Blu-rays. There was early problems with DVDs. I mean, before things really got kind of perfected, and also when it comes to kind of the display technology as well, the televisions, the players.
Mm.
Those also need time to like fix things. Or
Yeah, and
get
that's
things working
actually
right.
we're sort of going through that process too. Is our first UHD is in production right now. That's Dr. Caligari, the 1989 version, which was part of the pre-order, the Halloween sale pre-orders. And that has been an absolute learning curve as well. Not as much a learning curve as the box set that we're doing at the same time, just because we'd never done one of those either.
Yeah.
So actually doing both a box set and doing a 4K release was a bad idea.
What,
But
do you know?
it is sort of our
Yeah,
testing ground too. It's our first release in that format, and we're going to see how it goes. Um, the sales were great for Caligari. We did 2,000 limited edition, and that sold out in like 2 or 3 weeks, which is pretty good for us.
That's great. Yeah.
Um, you know, so we'll see how we'll see how the reaction is. We didn't do an HDR grade for it just because the director didn't want us to, and we were advised by the people doing the production that it wasn't even really that it wouldn't add that much. I know there are people online who want to call me filthy names and insult
we are
me
not
and
one of them.
for saying that, but it's this comes straight from the mouth of the people who are actually working on the technical side. They just didn't feel so. So it's kind of it'll be just a sort of entry into that format. Kind of we'll see how it goes. We have a couple of other things that we're thinking about doing. A couple of upgrades for things that we've done in the past that we'll have one that we have access to and one that we hope to have access to. So
Yeah.
again,
Well, that situation you're talking about with the HDR reminds me of the Severn's Santa Sangre release where they got
yeah,
really upset about that.
yeah. But
Not
Joe
having it.
DeRossi himself said, "No, I don't
Yeah,
do it.
yeah,
It
yeah,
looks good the way it is." And it was a
Yeah.
similar situation. Steven Sadian, the director of Caligari, was like, he approved the color grade. And to do an HDR grade beyond that would be to sort of to fiddle with it further, and it just both he and the people doing the production, the actual technical restoration, just felt it wasn't going to add anything. It would just add cost.
yeah.
And so
That
not
and
Yeah,
we yeah for a company like yours, you gotta keep. I mean, any
yeah,
one of these boutique
yes,
labels, they got to keep costs
mhm.
down.
yes,
Not only,
absolutely,
yeah,
yeah.
not only that, it does go back to kind of a conversation we've had a few times on here, Stephen, where it's like, you know, certain catalog films, do they, uh, what is the preferred aesthetic for these releases? You know what I mean? Like, is this the intentioned way that for the filmmakers and stuff like that? Because when you're dealing with this whole new, like we said, this whole new technology, 4K, higher resolution, HDR with brighter colors and new color grading, who do you go back to get a definitive word on the way these things are supposed to look? And like, and I guess that maybe comes down to like who owns the movie and all that
Well,
kind of
I was
stuff.
Yeah, it's a tough
yeah,
call because
Yeah.
a lot of times, I mean, especially a lot of the movies that we're doing, a lot of the filmmakers are dead.
yeah,
Quite
Mm.
frankly, a lot of the people like we've done some have done and are doing some Japanese movies from the 70s, and we tried to find people to interview, and absolutely everyone is dead or so old that they just don't want, or just wants to forget that time in their life. So it's just finding people that worked on stuff is hard. So yeah, again, who then gets to decide how a film should look?
yeah,
So in some cases it does then default to the licensor, the person who actually owns the film, or to the people releasing it, to us or
yeah,
whoever, I mean, in some cases we might get a raw restoration and have to do the color grade ourselves, and so we have to make those calls. You sort of look at older releases. I mean, you can look at a VHS release and sort of get a good sense of the color timing and things, or you can sort of get us just a sense of like, well, this is the way it looks in this raw scan as opposed to older releases. Maybe they got it wrong compared to this, and so
Yeah.
there's a lot of choices that you have to make. It's not always a situation where there's going to be a living filmmaker like a Jodorowsky or a Steven Sadian who's going to say this is right and this is wrong. So it is a very complicated process, and one that sometimes we feel. I don't know, how do I put it. We resent the fact that we have to make all these decisions because we got a temporary lease on this
Yeah.
film, and so we have to A, spend all the money, and B, make all these decisions for something that in 7 years we're likely not gonna have the rights to anymore.
Yeah.
So it's a weird situation. It's a very weird business that we find ourselves in, but
But it's important though. It's important, and I know you guys know this. And it's, I think, a main reason for a lot of these labels is they start out wanting to just preserve things. They want to preserve these
Mm.
films, and
Mhm.
spread the word on them, and just, I mean, especially a label like Mondo, I think, really is you know showing people things that they're not going to find anywhere else, and that's
Right.
important. So
Yeah, we don't do this because we don't pick movies, at least not primarily, because we're gonna make some money. Woo! This is gonna be a cash cow. We don't. It's not really the way we work. There are a few movies that like, we like this movie. It's available. We think it will sell.
yeah,
Like Lizard and a Woman's Skin, the Lucio Fulci movie.
yeah,
You guys know
yeah.
that one?
What you're talking about, yeah,
That was an early Blu-ray that we did. We were working with a licensor, and they had it available. No one else had picked it up. There was a fairly good HD master in existence. I personally love it. I think it's top five Fulci for me.
okay,
Um, so that's a no-brainer.
yeah,
But then there's other things like the Filipino movie Silip, which is not something that is why we released it on DVD back in the day, or Pete did. I wasn't with the company at that time, but it was always one of my favorites and one that I kept going. Pete, we should do this one again, and it's just because we love it and we think it's a great movie. It actually has sold pretty well because it's got hot Filipino babes in horrible
yeah, yeah.
situations. So people are going to want to buy that, but we did it for love. We do a lot of the stuff we do because we really like the movies, and like you say, we want to show them to other people. We want to make money too. I want to make a living. I want to keep my be able to pay my mortgage. But it's fun to be able to do that while putting out stuff that you really love.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
it's great to be able to to make a living doing something like this, where you get to watch movies, you get to share the love of film with other
Right.
people. It's a great thing. It's a great thing, and yeah, you got to hope that sometimes you got to make decisions based off of what you think's gonna sell. You can sell to other people too. That's got to be part of it. But I think there's a balance there, and I think you guys,
Mm.
from what I can tell, do a great job at that. But one
Right.
thing I do want to
Sometimes.
do is not only do we obviously want to talk about Mondo here, but we do want to talk more about Jared.
Yeah,
Uh,
you're reading my mind.
yeah,
Reading
yeah,
my
yeah.
mind. I
You
was
just
actually
you, man, just
just
you.
gonna ask like about your love of movies and where that kind of came from, and if kind of like the macabre of Mondo Macabro, those the type of movies that influenced you when you were younger, and hence why it's such a good pairing. But basically, tell us your life story in a nutshell.
Do it,
Well, I was
do it in
born on a
do it in
rainy
5 minutes.
day in
Your whole life.
1975. No, so I'll stick to just the movie portion. What's funny is that I had sort of a religious background when I was a little kid. My parents were Jehovah's Witnesses, and that even though my mom grew up loving horror movies and monster movies and things like that, when I was a kid and coming up, they kind of went along with the church attitudes about that. So I didn't see a lot of horror movies when I was a kid, like a lot of people who are in this business or who are fans of this stuff too. So in some ways, I was sort of behind the times with a lot of this stuff. I was not as yeah. I just in fact, it was like I thought horror movies were actually really scary. Like you know, I was, was scared to watch them when I was a little kid. Which is not to say that I didn't love movies in general, though, or didn't love, sort of culty stuff. In fact, it goes back so far I don't even remember. My parents said I saw one of the Godzilla movies when I was a kid and just became obsessed with it. And throughout my whole childhood, loved Godzilla. So Godzilla, the original Showa era films,
Yeah.
which, I'm not sure how old you guys are, but like, I grew up in the 80s, late 70s and 80s. And those movies were on all the time. Like
Yeah.
on UHF channels, like either sort of like Sunday morning movies or like late at night movies. You'd see the Godzilla movies or the Gamera movies, and so that was an early sort of movie obsession for me. So that would also be my earliest Asian film or Asian culture, really, in general, sort of interest, which is now sort of primarily my main cinematic interest is Asian cinema. Um, so that's really where it starts, and Star Wars too, of course, like everybody. I was really into Star Wars. One of my earliest actual film going memories is seeing Empire Strikes Back
Yeah.
and just being like freaked out about it, and just and the whole thing. And so is that. But as an adult, I kind of went along, and as a teenager, I think like a lot of people, you start looking for things that are different or scandalous or taboo breaking. And it wasn't necessarily horror for me, but it was like Stanley Kubrick and Clockwork Orange. David Lynch and Blue Velvet was something that really, really, really blew my mind when I was like 13, 14. And then I watched Eraserhead and just was like, what is this? Like, what, people make movies like this? So that was it, David Lynch and Stanley Kubrick. And then, like Twin Peaks started around, 90, 91. Obsessed. And still to this day, David Lynch is a really important filmmaker for me. So, but it wasn't until, I think I worked in a video store for a long time. I loved like the classics. I loved foreign classics. I loved Bergman and Fellini and Kurosawa. Kurosawa was really, really big for me. Still is. If you put a gun to my head, I might say Seven Samurai is the best movie ever made.
I agree.
Very cool. Yeah, yeah.
I
It's
have
the
a
best
big
action movie ever made. If
oh,
it's
it
not the
is.
best movie, yeah.
I have a big a poster that's made out of like a fabric that's on my. I have to show you when we're done.
Like a
But yeah,
tapestry.
yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
very
I
cool.
think
A
I've got
Seven
a mini.
Samurai over here. Yeah,
I think I've got a mini Seven Samurai mini Rashomon posters that I bought at like a
Ooh,
convention.
ooh,
There
very
was
nice.
this
Very
Yeah, there was
nice.
this one person at a convention that all they were selling were mini posters of like everything. So I would just stay there and just like go through all of them just like a bunch of times, and it's just you mentioned Godzilla. I bought like a Godzilla,
Yeah.
you know, you a Gojira
Mhm.
poster and stuff like that. Try to get the original poster, not
Oh, very
original
cool. Yeah.
artwork. You know what I mean, like
Mhm.
aesthetic. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, very cool. But I totally agree that Japanese cinema is kind of it when you discover it, it's kind of like it changes your perspective of cinema. It really does.
It does, and it was like something that sort of it was, when I got into the Kurosawa stuff, I thought I was digging deep, and I just saw basically his samurai movies. I didn't even see a lot of his like crime movies and dramas
yeah,
until actually just a few years ago. I kind of got back into it and started watching his stuff again, and then caught up with a lot of the movies that I had missed. But which is interesting is, years later, it was like kind of blew my mind when I started watching all the Yakuza films from the 70s and a lot of the more obscure samurai stuff from the 60s. That was a really big discovery. But that came later. And honestly, if I could pinpoint one moment that really changed it all for me is in 1998, I saw The Beyond, the Lucio Fulci movie. I saw it in
yeah,
a theater. I went with two friends of mine that are still good friends of mine, and we had none of us had seen any Fulci movies or any Italian horror movies. Actually, I think one of my friends probably had a little bit more experience with that stuff. I had not seen anything. I was a big fan of like Sergio Leone and that sort of thing, and spaghetti westerns, and I was just starting to dip my toes into horror. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool if there was like a Sergio Leone, a horror movie done in a Sergio Leone, that sweaty close up style,
Yeah.
that really, operatic, kind of thing. And lo and behold, there was Lucio Fulci, and that movie had it's like that was it really opened my eyes to things that I had no idea about. Like I said,
Yeah.
I was dipping my toes into horror, but after that, it was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of really interesting stuff, and it is aesthetically interesting as well as fun. So that's really the thing that kicked me off, that really got this whole process started, was Fulci's The Beyond. Yeah, and still a huge favorite of mine.
Yeah. Well, if I'm thinking about when it comes to international cinema, one that really opened my eyes, and Andrew knows this is one of my favorite films. It's Kobayashi's Harakiri. Is
Oh
one
yeah,
that I just really love, and it just as soon as I saw that, it was about the storytelling and just the acting in that film just really Natsu
yeah.
Nakadays.
That lead actor, actually, I'm blanking on his name, but
Yeah,
he is
it's
I think
Tatsu
truly
it's
one.
Tatsu
Nakade,
Nakade.
Takashi
Yeah,
Right,
Nakade. I think
yeah,
right,
I have to
right.
look it
yeah,
up.
Such
Um,
such a such a great actor,
yeah,
and everything he's done. And of course, did a bunch of Kurosawa stuff. And
yeah. I loved him in
that's the samurai movie Kill.
Kill.
Do you
Yep,
know that one? That's
yeah,
such a great movie, and just wonderful performance from him in that. No.
yeah. I love.
yeah,
Did you ever see High and Low?
Yes.
I
Yeah.
love High and Low. Yeah,
Amazing, amazing film. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I love crime films. Especially foreign crime films, especially Asian crime films.
yeah,
And so that was one that I actually hadn't caught up with until about 3 or 4 years ago.
yeah. It's yeah.
Just missed it. Just there's plenty of. I mean, I'm sure it's the same for you guys. Is that there's some great movies you just end up,
You just
and
yeah,
that's sort
oh
of the
yeah,
part of the fun. You don't want to have seen everything. You want to still be able
wait,
to discover classics. And that was one that just blew my mind.
we're
And I
literally
think it's just such a great performance from Mifune in that. Very
oh
understated.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
sort of his sort of scenery chewing that he does in like Rashomon or Seven Samurai.
yeah.
Very sort of quiet, performance from him. God, great,
Yeah,
really
we're
good.
literally
Really
we're gonna start a show. We have well, it's not started. We did it once, but we're gonna bring it back. We're doing a show, starting a new show that's gonna be monthly called the Unwatched Pile, where we literally go into our
Mm,
collection and pull out stuff we haven't watched from our collections yet. And
yeah.
that's the whole point, like
yeah. Well, it's
we
kind of
got
a revival of something we
yeah,
started.
yeah.
Um,
But
like, but it's
it gives us a chance to bring out the classics that we haven't had a chance to watch yet. That we
Yeah,
can,
yeah,
yeah. There's a ton of
yeah,
that stuff. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
a lot of it's also like kind of longer form films and whatnot. For me, it's you know,
yeah.
just
Some of these films are like 3 hours long, and it's like,
well, yeah, some of
Oh
them
yeah,
are incredibly
it's a
long,
big
but
time
also
investment.
yeah,
are by incredibly challenging filmmakers.
yeah,
Filmmakers who like, they like you can write a whole, PhD master's course on or a whole thesis on like Tarkovsky. That was
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
Andre
had
Rublev. If you have you seen
yeah,
that
like
one?
yeah,
I
That,
hadn't seen
that's an amazing,
Solaris. I hadn't seen Solaris yet. And I've had the Blu-ray in my collection for like a decade,
great
and
movie.
it was just sitting there, and
Yeah,
it was just
really
like,
great
when
movie.
do I get to it? I even something like Mirror, I haven't seen yet. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like a lot of Tarkovsky stuff, I just had waited to get into because some of these are some of the filmmakers that we're talking about are like these gigantic filmmakers. They're not films you see all the time. They're generational filmmakers, like cinema changing filmmakers, and it's just like I want to make sure I'm in the right headspace to watch it. I mean, you mentioned David Lynch. The first time I saw Eraserhead, I was not in the right headspace to watch that movie,
I
and
don't know if you could ever be truly in the right headspace to
truly, but
watch
it
it, which is one of
rattled
the
me.
things that's interesting about it.
It rattled me to the point where, like, it took me
Exactly.
another,
Yeah.
like, 10 years to watch it again because it was
Right.
so, like,
Right.
just earth-shattering. The same thing when I watched Mulholland Drive for the first time. It just, like, just rattles you.
Mhm.
And it's so when you gotta come back to it after, like, you've gone through a whole lifetime worth of movie watching just to feel like you're in a better place to do it. But it's interesting just because, like, when I discovered international cinema, it was like opening up brand new doors for me. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
brand new, just like things I had never known existed, ways of filmmaking I had never known existed, filmmakers I had never known, and just I didn't know movies could be a certain like different ways. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
For me,
Uh,
it was Italian neorealism really opened
mm.
my mind. things like Umberto D and the Bicycle Thieves.
Mhm.
Kind of like if anything, it's like film school
Rome Open
101
City.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it was that stuff that was really kind of mind blowing for me. And then you kind of spread out to European cinema from there. But that's kind of interesting how, you know, that was kind of your gateway into a lot of the more obscure things. Things that were probably less easily accessible back when you were trying to get them than now. Like now you can stream Seven Samurai on the internet.
Yeah, at least those. I mean, those were the video store days,
Right. Yeah. You
and
had to
and I
go to
was
the
lucky
actual
enough that
stores.
I lived in a college town
Mm.
in the end of my teen years, and there were good video stores. Not, I mean, there were sort of, culty video stores or whatever, but just your average. There was a place called Hastings, that I don't even know if it exists anymore. This was in Texas where I lived at the time, and they just had a really good foreign film section. And so, that was I went every weekend and, would rent, like Tarkovsky's Stalker, I saw
Yeah.
there, and plenty of other stuff. And then there was always stuff that I would like see and then it just ended up not getting. I didn't see till years later. Like Aguirre, Wrath of God by Herzog was something I always thought that looks interesting, but for whatever reason I never rented it. But it's a great movie. I've seen it several times.
Oh
And,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
think
yeah. I
I've
but
got
it
seen
is
it.
a whole journey, and
I,
it's nice. There's always good. It's good to start off somewhere and just sort of see where you end up because
yeah,
I
I started
yeah.
off at that journey with a lot of the more established classics, and sort of by the end of that journey, I don't want to say end of that journey because that seems like I'm dying, um, but now it's I like you come to the more grubbier stuff, the sort of commercial underground stuff, the exploitation movies and the
yeah.
horror movies and sort of more outre art house films and stuff. So
Right.
it's
Right.
it's
Now
it's a fun process, and you should always be. I feel you should always be looking for more. You should always be
oh,
Definitely.
trying
oh,
to find different
most
things.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, cinema is endless. That's the one thing I love about movies is that like there are endless amounts of things to discover. Like
It really is. Yeah.
when you think you know everything, you don't.
Yeah.
That's happened to me a few times where I've
Yeah.
gotten
Yeah.
too conceited about my knowledge of cinema. And then this actually happened to me a few years ago when I started getting into Ingmar Bergman. I kind of thought I knew cinema, and then I started watching Bergman films, and I'm like, I don't know anything.
Yeah.
His films are so unique and so different that it's like, no, no,
I know, and there's
um,
like, I mean, he made a lot of films too, so there's a lot to
right,
discover just
so
within
many to
his
discover.
particular, oeuvre. Um, it- that it's endless. Or for me, again, Japanese cinema is a really good example because, like, I mean, just Japan in the 1960s, endless, endless font of amazing movies, like, or just either movies that are richly artistic and aesthetically pleasing, or just
Mhm.
weird and fun. It's just
Right.
endless movies.
Yeah.
And there's
So
so
yeah.
many different styles, and you kind of can compare them kind of like Western cinema in a way, because they're all like there's different genres. There's samurai, there's drama, there's comedy, there's subgenres, there's all kind of stuff. Um, for me, it's Ozu was a big one for me as well. When I watched Late Spring, Tokyo Story, and a lot of his other works, there was such a universal thing to a lot of those movies. Even the Seven Samurai, there's so many universal themes in Akira Kurosawa's work as well that you can see the comparisons to how movie there's a through line through movies and stuff, and it's amazing when you expand your palette how you can see the similarities and the differences.
Sure. And
Yeah.
Uh,
Kurosawa is a good example of that because he's someone who absorbed a lot of Western influences, both Western literature and Western um, cinematic genres. The Western itself was a huge influence on the samurai movies that he was making, the Chambara films. Did I get
yeah,
that term right? I can't remember it.
uh,
So when I
I,
said that aloud, suddenly it didn't sound right. The
yeah,
swordplay
well,
film, but
yeah, yeah,
it's, you can sort of see, and yet at the same time they're very Japanese. And then, like Ozu, you mentioned, Ozu is a director that actually I have not gone very much into. I've seen Tokyo Story maybe one or two others. Um, and you're right, it's a very universal emotional core to those films because he was a very humanist director. But at the same time, it's very Japanese. It's very, he was considered the most. I mean, I think he is considered, or was at one time anyway, the most Japanese of Japanese directors. But his
Yeah,
films are appreciable by anyone. You know.
yeah, yeah. So I'm looking at your collection. Of course, I see some Japanese back there. I see some stuff back there. We need to get into your collecting.
Yeah.
So where did the bug for collecting? Was it during that video store times where the collecting really started getting to you?
I mean, not so much. Not really in the VHS days. It really started with DVD for me. Again, I was sort of late to a lot of that stuff. So I remember seeing like catalogs from like for like a lot of the VHS bootleg stuff. Like friends would get it and we'd look through it and go, oh, all these weird old spaghetti. I didn't know there were so many spaghetti westerns beyond Sergio Leone and what is this Cannibal Holocaust? Oh my God, that sounds
Oh,
crazy. But I didn't really get into A, seeing a lot of that stuff and B, collecting it until the DVD days. For one thing, DVDs, you could get them like VHS. I mean, again, I'm not sure how old you guys are, but VHS were
we're
more
both in our mid
expensive.
30s. We're in our mid
Are you?
30s.
So yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm in my late 40s, so I'm a bit older than you guys, and uh, VHS were just expensive. The bootleg VHS tapes that you could mail order. I mean, those cost like $40 a pop, plus $10 shipping and stuff. So it was an expensive hobby, and I never had a lot of money, especially as a teenager and in my early 20s. So it was kind of fun whenever DVDs came on, and they were more expensive. They were 15 to $20 and that it sort of happened around that same time that I started discovering the Italian horror stuff. So early 2000s. Um, so that was really where it started. I really got into the Italian horror stuff, the 70s American horror stuff. Something weird. Something Weird Video. I don't know if you
Yeah.
guys are familiar with them. They did like
Yep.
exploitation movies. Basically, them and Criterion are like the two. They're like at one pole. There's Criterion at one pole and Something Weird at the other pole, and sort of those were the two like labels that I was first aware of as that existed. And Anchor Bay somewhere in the middle.
I was just gonna that you're reading
Yeah,
my mind. Like I know Anchor
yeah.
Bay and Blue Underground were all around in the 2000s.
Right. So, I mean, so Something Weird was really, I discovered like movies like Axe and The Child and stuff like that. The really like the 70s stuff. I love 70s movies and those sort of weird 70s American regional horror movies that they did. And some of the, like the 60s roughy exploitation stuff. That and the Italian horror stuff was really sort of what kickstarted. And again, it was because those were the days you could go into a Barnes and Noble or a Best Buy, and there would be endless stuff. There would be
Oh,
that Blue Underground stuff. There'd be unearthed films and some of the Japanese stuff that they were releasing, and but by the time you get to like No Shame, DVD label that did Italian genre stuff, that was a big. So it was. I loved that time, and it's still a time that I sort of think fondly about. That time between like 2002 and 2008 when there was again it was sort of a smaller version of the time that we're having now where there were all these labels and putting out movies you'd never heard of. So that was when I got into collecting. It was at that time it was collecting DVDs. And and it's sort of it had its ups and downs. Never, I live in Seattle. I did at the time. I'm still in Washington, but I don't live in Seattle. And I just, it's expensive to live there. So it's, you can't go as whole hog as you would like. And, but then, the Blu-ray era came in and, I just started, I got a better job with Mondo Macabro and make a bit more money and can sort of afford to buy, Shaw Brothers box sets,
Yeah, yeah.
and stuff like that.
etc., etc.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it's just sort of it's grown over time, and it is and like I said, I'm a collector just like you guys, or like the people who are going to be watching this. I mean, sometimes it almost seems you wonder if some of the guys who do work at some of these labels, I don't know, it's just not that they aren't lovers of cinema, they absolutely are, but like I feel like I'm just a fan, just like
Yeah.
everybody else. More so than maybe some people that actually that do a lot of work
They
in this
probably
area.
sleep better than you do, though. You know what I mean? Like because you are a fan, so much of a fan. You care so much about making sure that the other people that collect this stuff like it. So like
Mm.
it's like
Yeah, yeah.
they probably sleep better
Perfectionist.
than you do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tough thing. Yeah, I mean, that's sort of what I brought to the table with Mondo Macabro. Pete's a bit more removed from that. He's older and a bit
Yeah.
old school, and I came in kind of knowing the market, just
Yeah.
being a collector, being a fan. So that was sort of what I brought in, and so that is continually my sort of. If there was a single role for me within Mondo Macabro, it's that sort of knowing the market and sort of what can we do to meet market expectations,
Yeah.
and kind of find niches within it, find ways to make the fans happy, but work within our means at the same time,
Mm.
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
Yeah,
still do
that's
what we do as opposed to what other labels are doing
that's
or
kind of
whatever.
super important. I think underrated is to have someone like yourself kind of plugged in, ear to the ground, kind of on a a a fans type level, so you can get kind of the idea of fan expectation and what they're feeling, what they're
What is
thinking, what their
reality and
tendencies
what's
are.
realistic and what's their
Yeah,
Right,
expectations?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
and
because
and there's
sometimes, you if you're a fan, sometimes you kind of just think that all these companies are these big, skyscrapers in the sky. You know what I mean? Like they're so far removed from our level that you don't really that you just don't think about it. But what I've noticed from the boutique levels is they're very much on the level with collectors, because a
yeah,
lot of the people like
yeah,
yourself who work for these companies are collectors and movie fans at heart. So
yeah, yeah.
they kind of know what we want because they are us. They are
Yeah,
the consumer at heart, or they
yeah,
are
that
the
was one of
collector
the
at
things
heart.
from the DVD era when I was just a fan, just buying stuff. It seemed very much like it was this brand label, and you didn't really, maybe you knew a name associated with it, but you didn't know anything about them. People didn't interview them. There wasn't, there weren't YouTube channels devoted to interviewing schmucks who work for them. So
Yeah.
occasionally a message board like DVD Maniacs back in the day, you'd get somebody like Don May or somebody would come on and from Synapse and would come on and talk to people and stuff. But it seemed remote. It seemed like what you're talking about. It seemed like somebody off in their sort of ivory tower, collecting their millions from working in the entertainment industry. But it's different nowadays, and and it's not just me. There's a lot of people who are very upfront, and I try to be very transparent, and I think that pays off in a lot of ways. I try to be very transparent with how we do things and the decisions that we make, because a lot of it doesn't always seem, from a purely fan consumer perspective, it doesn't always make sense, and people can come to very cynical conclusions about some of the things that we do, or they just make assumptions, and it's not correct. A lot of the times it really isn't correct, and I had a lot of incorrect assumptions too whenever I was just a fan. So that's one of the things that I try and do is come and say, okay, well, this is why we're doing this. This is why maybe this transfer on this film wasn't as good.
Yeah.
This is why we only could do a certain number of this limited edition. These things like this that maybe in the old days would have just been like, yeah, well, they're just, why did they make that decision? It must be because they hate us. they
Yeah.
they
I
want to annoy us,
I can
and
just
it's
say
not
that
true. No one ever makes decisions in any industry to annoy you. So
I can just say, like, from just a fan and collector's perspective, that it's the transparency is always nice, because I think a lot of us pay attention to everything. Like, I'm super overthinking. I overthink
Oh yeah.
everything.
Oh yeah. Me
So
too.
of
Yeah.
course that I want to know everything about something. You know, especially something that I'm passionate about or something that I do or something that's such a big part of my life, like movies, like collecting,
Yeah.
like, all this kind of stuff. And even if it's bad news, tell me anyway, like, hey, we can't release this movie because of the elements are too bad, or
Right.
we don't have the
Yeah.
rights anymore, or whatever the
Happens all
case
the
may be,
time. Yeah.
or there's a delay, we have to delay it a year
Yeah.
because of whatever reason. Just like,
Mhm.
make sure you just tell us, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And even as something as minute as um I keep bringing this up, Steven, but it's the what's the Coen brothers release from
Miller's
Criterion
Crossing.
that happened,
Miller's
um,
Crossing.
Miller's Crossing, where they had trimmed a bit of the movie, and they didn't tell any of us who were buying it until, like,
They
we
trimmed
had the
it like
disc
it was
we
like.
had the
There were
disc in hand
yeah.
in our players, and it's like, "Wait
What,
a minute,
what
there's a
was the
scene
issue with
missing."
that? Like they part of it was cut
Well,
or
There was a
the Coen
line that was
the
cut, I
yeah, the Coen
believe.
brothers had gone back and kind of
ah
done, like, another
sure.
like, a director's cut of
Yeah.
it, and
Yeah. Yeah.
they had cut, like, the end of one scene and something and some other stuff,
Yeah. Right.
minute stuff, but
Right.
there was nothing to tell
But of course,
us.
people on the internet are going to notice that,
Yeah,
and
but
that's
they didn't
why.
tell us
Yeah.
until people were watching it when they bought it, and we were like, "Wait
Yeah.
a minute, there's something missing here." And then,
Yeah.
"Oh, yeah, the Coen brothers went back and cut this out." It's like, "Oh,
Yeah.
it would've been nice to know that
The Coens are
beforehand."
really interesting. They're about the only directors who make their director's cuts shorter than the
Yeah.
Yeah.
theatrical
Yeah,
cuts.
now that I
Yeah.
think about it.
They're very interesting. They're very, very like, no,
Yeah,
let's cut
most directors' cuts are
all the
longer.
fat. Yeah. No,
I think
but I know what you mean. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. There should have been a bit more transparency at the front, saying this is a new director approved version of the film. Yeah,
Something as simple as
But
that.
I
It's
I
one
think for
line.
people, yeah, I think for people too is it's also about, like, not even just letting us know, but maybe it'd be good to just have the ability to have both versions, if
yes,
possible.
yeah,
That's always, if we can have both versions, nobody's going to complain about it. And I think, you know, if the filmmakers are making the choice, we can't really fight. It's their vision, it's
yeah,
their thing.
yeah,
But also, once it leaves their care and they put it out in the world, it becomes everybody's thing in a way,
yeah,
and
yeah.
you're taking that experience away from the people that saw the movie the first time and loved it, when you then take it back and then say, I'm going to change some things. And so I think it's just good to have the options.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Well,
And
there's
the other big
yeah.
thing with Criterion was the Wong Kar Wai
Yeah,
box set
Oh,
yeah.
that they
yes.
did, which was, he went and Wong Kar Wai is a fiddler and goes and fiddles with his movies and changed a lot of things. And at the same time, Criterion is sort of they're bound. A lot of us
Right.
are bound to what we get from the licensor, and I think the situation with that, or another situation where Arrow did the female convict Scorpion movies, which were right about there's the box set right about there. There was a revisionist color grade done to that, and there was nothing they could do about that. That was what they got from Toei Films. They couldn't do anything about it.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
similar thing with Criterion, but it's at least I think there was at least word of that ahead of that box set of the One
Yeah,
Car Eye
the Wong
films.
Kar-wai, yeah, that was
Yeah.
heavily people were up in arms, like
They were very upset, and I
Pitchfork
still
and
haven't
torches.
bought that. I love those films. And I still haven't bought that yet because I'm not sure how I feel.
Mm.
I should go, and I probably will buy it during a sale
Yeah.
or something.
I mean, I could say, there were yeah, and there was yeah, it was for those of you listening and those of you who don't know, there were aspect ratio changes, there
Mhm.
were, kind of radical color
Yeah,
palette and color tonal
yeah,
changes, that he had done, kind of saying he actually did come out and say give reasons why,
yeah,
saying,
yeah,
at the
yeah,
time, we didn't have, we kind of this was what we had to work with at the time, and this is what I originally wanted it to look like, and things like that. I mean, I'm not above directors going back and changing their things. It is,
but it
I
would be
do like
nice if
having
there
the
were both
option,
versions. If there were both,
right? And
there
the
was the
thing is,
revisionist version and the not
for s-
revisionist
for a
version, but
lot of the
that's
movies
not
that
always
he
possible. Yeah,
for a lot of movies that he changed, there are older versions available for people to track down and buy.
yeah,
For example,
yeah,
um, In the Mood for Love, the original Blu-ray release is you can still get it.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, And even though I think, yeah, they went from a and then they went to another Blu-ray in that box set, and then now a 4K of that
4K.
is out
Yeah,
as
they just
well.
released that.
So it's
Yeah.
like a double upgrade.
Mhm.
And even, a couple of his other films, Chungking Express,
Mm.
that Blu-ray, you can track it down. It's been out of print for years, but
Yeah,
you can track it
I've held
down.
on to that and Fallen Angels as
Yeah,
well. I wish
I
I'd
have
gotten
another release
Happy
for that.
Together because I think that was another one that was fiddled with.
Yeah,
And I kind of regret never picking up that original the Kino release of that.
I think I got both of those, like, in a two-pack box set at of the Key yeah, I think it was Kino release, I have it on my shelf,
Yeah.
and I found it randomly in a used yeah, you were talking about, like, stores and whatnot, I found it in a used, like, deep
Nice.
movie store, like,
Sure.
years ago, and I had no idea who One Car Why was other than In the Mood for Love, and I was like, "Oh, I'll just buy this double pack for, like, $20 on
Right.
Blu-ray." I didn't
That's
know what it
fun.
was,
Yeah.
let alone now I've had it for forever.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And
the
it's a good
things you
thing to have.
discover
Yeah.
I would
Hmm.
say that that's what I miss the most. You were talking about that 2002 to 2008 kind of window. I missed kind of the 2008 to like 2015 window, really, where there were a lot of movie stores and around me, and a lot of bigger selections at brick and mortar stores and whatnot. You were just talking about Best Buy. I remember when Best Buy used to have 6 or 7 rows
I
of
know.
back to front of
I know.
movies that
I
you could
know.
go choose from, and that was the DVD. That was towards the end of the DVD era. Um,
Yeah. And the early Blu-ray era. I
and the early
mean,
Blu-ray era, they
you
started
could
out
go
with
to
a
Best Buy
small
and buy tons of Blu-rays at one
yeah, I
time.
used to go there all the time, and they would have tons and tons of things to look for. Now it's down to nothing. Even
Yeah.
other smaller stores have either closed or they're just their prices are just way out of the game now, just because they need to
Yeah.
overprice things. But it's kind of that era is kind of gone of the I always call it the thrill of the hunt. I loved hunting for movies. I love just going out with no real agenda, no real like, "Oh, I'm going out to buy this movie." No, I would just go and look, row by row, line by line on dusty shelves in a used, DVDs, Blu-ray store and just find, like, hidden gems. They would
I
have
know
things that would
it
be
is sort of sad. The only the sort of comparable thing that's still left is I go record shopping,
mm,
and
Yeah.
and I love to just go and go. I don't whatever they've got. I'm going to find like five things at least that I
Yeah.
want. But you don't find that for movies anymore, really. I mean, there's some places like in Seattle, there's Scarecrow Video still. It's
Yeah.
like a
Yeah.
rental place, but they also have a large for sale section, new and used. And so at least, I mean, there are a few places still out there. I think if you live in a big city,
Well, we're sponsored with Orbit DVD, and they're in Asheville, North Carolina, which is where I live in North Carolina.
oh,
So
okay, yeah.
they're about 2.5 hours away from me, but they're a place you can go in a store and browse if you
Is there
live
an
there.
actual? There's a brick and
Yeah.
mortar actual location for that.
Yep.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah, that's
yeah,
what they
that
started as a video store, and then
Oh,
during the
okay.
pandemic is when
Yeah.
he started doing the online thing, and that's just boomed.
All right.
Um,
Yeah, I've heard of
yeah.
that. I didn't know
The
that.
online or yeah. I would say, yeah, we didn't even talk about how kind of, the COVID times and pandemic times have really changed movie buying.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it's changed, like, production wise for, Mondo Macabro and all these other boutique labels, just in terms of there was, shipping and supply chain issues and working issues and things shutting down. And that I think that affected every facet of entertainment.
Yeah, and there's still knock-on effects. There's still supply chain things that are still and a lot of the sort of inflation things that has arisen since the pandemic affect us as well. Paper is a lot more expensive, so like the printing jobs, like we do booklets for all the limited editions, all that stuff
yeah.
is more expensive. It's yeah, but at the same time, the pandemic was a good time overall for a
We
lot of the boutique labels.
yeah, we've heard this. Yeah, we've heard
We
this. Yeah.
all saw sales increase.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
when the sale because people couldn't go buy the movies. And not that we could find a lot of these in stores in general, but it just like I feel like
Yeah.
more people needed entertainment.
yeah, I
Yeah.
guess so. I mean, it's not. Was it that different than was before? At least in terms of online availability? No, not really. But there was suddenly this, oh, I guess, I'm working from home. Maybe I've got a little bit more time on my hand, and And we were worried. I mean, I had a conversation with like Joe Rubin from Vinegar Syndrome about this at the very early part of the pandemic. We were worried that the pandemic was going to, I mean, people were getting laid off from jobs, and there were a lot of worries about a recession at that time that never really happened. But there were a lot of people, there was a lot of people sort of, having to tighten their belts. But what we found, I mean, we were worried that that was going to cause that effect of like, well, there's less discretionary cash to spend on things like box sets of movies, of exploitation movies from the 70s. Are people just going to, is that going to hurt our business? And we all found exactly the opposite, is that people were, eating less, I guess. So they
Yeah,
could,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, they were
so
there's
they
a
could
lot of
make sure that they spent like $2,000 during a Black Friday sale.
there's a lot of people getting free money too. A lot of free money flowing out there for people that
Yeah,
didn't work.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe people were saving money not being able to go to like like expensive restaurants or
I
buying
mean,
food out
maybe.
or coffee or
I mean, I think
whatever.
what I was sort of just figured is it just like, because my example was the 2008 recession and how that affected the DVD era. But at that time, it was a much more mainstream thing. So
Yeah.
so the whole DVD industry sort of collapsed because suddenly people weren't buying as much stuff from Best Buy and things like that, just because it was a wider thing. And now in this era, in the Blu-ray era, it's a much more niche, concentrated collector mentality that's different than this movie looks weird at Best Buy. It's $17. I don't care. I'm going to buy it.
Mm.
It's a more intense thing now than it
Oh
was at
yeah.
that time, and so people are more serious about it, and so it's a bigger part of their life, and they're less willing to make that sacrifice than they would have been than just Joe Schmuck who happens to find a Italian police movie
Oh
at
yeah.
Best Buy.
It's way more concentrated. It's way more the collector's way more focused. But speaking of, guess, online buying and just online buying in general, you've teamed up with Diabolic DVD to create a new label.
Oh
Mondo
yeah,
Macabro
yeah,
has Neon
yeah.
Eagle. I mean,
Yes,
that's kind
yes.
of a new
Neon Eagle
development.
Video is yeah, that's the full name. Yeah.
So, can you kind of tell us a little bit about kind of how that whole thing kind of came to be and kind of the focus, I guess, on
Sure.
Neon Eagle?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's sort of fun. Like, like I said, like you had me, I noticed, I saw your sort of banner thing when you were advertising sort of the interviews, and you had me as a co-founder of
I
Mondo
know.
Macabro,
I thought
which
thought
is
about
not
that.
true.
I
um,
know.
and
My
I'm very
fault.
proud to work. Mondo Macabro has always been my favorite label, but at the same time, it's always been in the back of my mind that it would be fun to have something that was me, that
Mm.
it was sort of my baby. But at the same time, I never really, it was just fantasy. It was never really, I
Yeah.
knew I maybe wanted to do something with Asian films, a label devoted to Asian films. But the opportunity didn't really come about. I've got plenty on my plate as it is. But the deal is that I made a deal for a movie, Kill Butterfly Kill, which is our first release. This very cool Taiwanese exploitation action movie, rape revenge thing. I made a deal for it. We got examples of what the master was going to look like, and Pete, it's Pete's Mondo Macabro is Pete's baby, so it was going to be for a Mondo Macabro release. So we got the examples of the HD and what the master looked like. It was very clear that it would require a lot of restoration. A lot of work would need to go into it. A lot of scenes in it had mold damage, and just poor storage. It's something you come across a lot in Southeast Asian and South Asian films. It's just preservation of materials isn't always a priority, and it's just a very hot climate, and those kind of things can have an adverse effect on film, on celluloid. And this was one of those cases. It just was not. It just would need a lot of work, and Pete sort of balked at that. And just thought, I mean, he wanted to do the movie. He was familiar with it and liked it, but it just didn't seem feasible to him. So I thought, well, God, I like this movie. I've got this deal. I'd made a good deal for it. I'd negotiated a nice deal where it would have been, you know, if I could find the right way to get the restoration done in economically, financially feasible way, it would be a good deal to have. So, and it just happened that around that time, actually initially, that was around the time OCN was getting started. It's like Fun City and
Yeah.
AGFA. And I know those guys. I know the AGFA guys. I know Jonathan at Fun City. And I thought, well, that's neat. That's neat. Jonathan, who works at Kino, he's doing Fun City on his own with OCN. Maybe I could do something like that with this movie, Kill Butterfly Kill. Like literally, it was like what Alphabet City or whatever it was, the first Fun City release, and it was just like a light bulb over my head. Maybe I could do something like this. And so I was initially going to talk to them. I was going to go to OCN. I was probably about a week away from doing that when I had a conversation with Jesse. Jesse's a good friend of mine. Just beyond the fact that we're both work in the industry, he's one of my better friends. We email and even text back for fairly frequently, complain about things going on, gossip about other people in the industry. And we just started talking about Asian stuff. I think he sort of pitched doing something. Like there was a movie that had come out in the UK, and he was like, "Well, maybe I can help Mondo do something like this." And I do this movie in the US, and I loved the movie, but at the same time, I already, I don't like to do things the way the global market works these days. UK release is practically the same as a US release. Everything is in English. It's, most people have region free players. Or if they don't, they could easily get one that's cheap, So I don't
Yeah.
like to do that. So I was like, I don't know. And this was about the time that he was getting started with Cauldron. I think they had their first couple of releases out. American Rickshaw and whatever the other one was, Abracadabra, I think it was called. So it was around that. It was around that time. So he was getting started into this. And I just sort of I knew he had a partner who was doing all that restoration. He had told me, that he was working with a guy, Brian, who was doing all that sort of in-house, all that stuff in-house, all the restoration, maybe getting color grade farmed out, but maybe doing some of that as well. And he was doing the authoring for the discs. So all in-house. So I just pitched him. We were just having a conversation about Asian movies and stuff. And I said, well, I've got this one movie. He had never heard of it, which is not surprising. It's really obscure. And I just said, would you be interested in trying to start something? Like, I've got this idea to maybe start my own Asian focused label. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, that sounds cool. It was really as simple as that. And it was never like he roped Brian in, and we started talking, and Brian is a really, really awesome guy, really cool guy, really smart guy. And we just all sort of agreed. I sent them the movie. They liked it. And they had a movie, a Japanese movie. It's going to be our second release. That also sort of fit the bill. And sort of from that, it sort of
Nice.
gave me a framework for what the branding for the label would be. So it's very much a side label. So I felt it had to have a very specific sort of raison d'etre, a very specific kind of movie that we're going to do.
Right.
So this other movie that they had fit with Kill Butterfly Kill and sort of suggested a style of film or a genre, not quite a genre, because there'll be different things, but a sort of era and budgetary level of exploitation film. Not so much horror, although there's going to be a little bit of horror in the future, but more exploitation and action, sort of that sort of grubbier, female focused in a lot of ways, action movies. And so that's just where it started. Sort of a long-winded answer to your question.
No,
That's
it
great.
kinda
That
makes
is sort of where it ended up, and it was a long process. So that was at the beginning of the pandemic, really.
Wow.
I just recall
Yeah.
that because Brian actually lived in Seattle too, and I was like, oh, once the pandemic is over, we'll we'll hang out. We'll go and we'll I'll come over and we'll take a look at stuff, and you can show me your setup. And he ended up moving away, or
So
so
much
So as soon
time.
as you said
so
that
we
to him, he
never
was
got.
like,
So I've
"Nah."
never met
I was
any of
like,
those
I
guys.
don't think
I've
this
never been in
happened.
the same room as any of those guys.
Yeah,
So
so
Yeah.
so much time. That's probably
I
gonna
know.
buy.
So it took a lot of time, and a lot of that was, Cauldron is a small operation, just like Mondo is. And because Brian does all that in-house work, I know I watched the interview that you did with him. He's a great interview. He's such a great guy. I think he talked about like Contraband. Did he talk about Contraband and how
A
much
little bit,
work?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh
how much
yeah,
work he just. I
yeah.
mean,
The
he did hundreds
the
of hours of
restoration.
work. Yes, he did the restoration for it because they said it was unusable. And it was a similar thing with Kill Butterfly Kill. It just required so much work, and beyond that, there was a whole nother cut of the film that was also in HD, and then there's a third cut of the film on this Blu-ray that is up for pre-order right now. If anyone wants to go buy it right now.
Nice
Wink.
plug.
I know, thank you. But so it was like double the amount of work because there was the other cut of the film was in much better shape.
Yeah.
But still, it's making sure the color grade is right, and eventually getting to the point where you do the compression on everything to get it to the point where you can author the disc and stuff. It's a long, lengthy process,
Yeah.
and because like I said, because they're a small company, we had to find a place to put it in their schedule. So it took a long time to come together. But now that it's essentially done, I'm going to be QCing the disc, I think, next week.
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Or the discs, because it's going to be two discs. It's two
Oh,
discs.
nice.
So, but everything is done. Everything else is done. All the extras have been done for a long time. I just signed off on the booklet. It'll be a 28-page booklet that'll come with it. My first ever liner notes for something.
Oh,
So
nice.
that's
Oh, wow.
something that's sort of not, in addition to sort of it being my baby, my label. This is the first time I've contributed to an actual release in that sort of sense. I've thought about it doing it before, but never had the confidence to
Yeah.
sit down and write something. But I did just because I basically had to for this one. But it came out pretty good, and I'm happy with it.
That's
That's
great,
awesome.
man.
So,
Yeah,
great.
that's awesome
well, that's
because
sort of where we are. Yeah. So
it
with
seems
that,
like it's been a bit of a journey and a kind of a dream, for you to do something like this. Being kind of part of it for so long, and now kind of being able to do it yourself feels like kind of it took all of this time to get you to this point to be able to kind of do this yourself, and it sounds like it's going to be awesome. I mean,
yeah, I think so. I mean, and
yeah,
it helps again that
you got people around you that
right, that
kind of
I
that
found
know
Jesse and
things.
Brian, right, that it was and I was friends with Jesse, and now I'm friends with Brian too, and we're all friendly, and we all know we're on the same page.
Collaborative
What we want
effort,
to do.
you know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, and it's and I say it's my baby, and I think when Jesse was on, you asked him about it. He said, "Oh, it's Jared's baby," but like they've put in. I mean, it's especially Brian, especially who does a lot of the technical work. They've put in work too, and it's not just me. It is a full on collaboration between myself and Cauldron. So
Yeah.
it's like me plus Cauldron equals Neon Eagle Video. Yeah.
Awesome. That's great, man. And
Yeah.
guys, everybody out there, please, of course, we got Mondo Macabro. Please check out their releases. We're going to continue, of course, discovering ourselves. And I do real quick before we wrap it up. If
Yeah.
there's a few Mondo Macabro releases that me and Andrew should check out that ain't
or
maybe the most
or
recent.
even our listeners or people
Yeah, yeah.
watching or
Yeah,
just
yeah.
people in
I
general.
grabbed kind of a stack, but I'll just sort of make a few brief selections from it. If no one Alucarda.
Okay.
So this is one. This is basically our flagship film. Do you guys know this one?
No.
No.
No. Okay. It's a Mexican horror film from 1978. Absolutely the most women screaming in a film you'll ever find. It's and it's just batshit crazy. It's very artistic. The director Juan Lopez Moctezuma was an associate of Jodorowsky's, and it
Okay.
has some of that similar avant-garde, like Latin American avant-garde spirit, but it's
Yeah.
a trashy horror movie at the same
Ah,
time.
Nice.
So this is sort of our flagship title. This is like it's a DVD. It's always in print. It's never going to go out of print. and it's a best-selling title for us. We cannot do a Blu-ray of it because the
Oh,
negative was destroyed.
ah,
Wow.
Sometime after
damn.
they did the transfer for this back in the early 2000s, they sent the negative back to a lab in Mexico. They either destroyed it or lost it.
Wow.
So, and we've been on the lookout for years trying to find a different another film source for it. We haven't been able to find it. So
Wow.
Wow.
So it's kind of
The DVD is it. The DVD
Yeah.
is it
that's
for
kind
this.
of a rarity. Yeah, a rarity in terms of like this is probably going to be it for this movie in terms of a
Yeah,
release.
unfortunately, but I mean, at least there is this.
Mm,
So at
Definitely.
least you
Yes.
can like you can still see the movie, and it's it's not bad for its time. It was done probably like 2001 or something like that. So it's very archaic, in the timeline of doing transfer technology and stuff. But so here's one that I wanna make sure people know about. And again, I've got all the red case editions because I have them. But, so these are available as retail editions, but they just come in the slimmer red or slimmer blue cases. So this is Symptoms by Jose Larraz, Spanish filmmaker. Do you guys know his movie Vampires? It was
I,
Arrow did a box set
I was
with
gonna say I
him.
got the box set. I got a box set.
Yes.
Yep.
So we're huge fans of Jose Larraz. Pete interviewed him. He did back in the late '90s, early 2000s. He did a TV show all about European exploitation and horror films, and did a whole episode devoted to Jose Larraz.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Um,
I think if I'm remembering the name of the movie in that set, I really liked. I think it was called Predator or Predators or something like that. I believe
no,
it was in the Arrow set.
in
Some
the Arrow set, there's vampires. There's
one of my I might be thinking of something else.
Whirlpool, and gosh, I'm blanking on the.
It might be Whirlpool. It might be Whirlpool.
It's not the title. Violation. Sorry. Hopefully this won't get you in trouble with the YouTube police. But Violation of the Bitch is one
Oh
of the
no, I
titles
don't
for the
care
other
about
movie.
that.
That's
Yeah.
not the title that's on the cover though.
I'm thinking. I think I'm
I can't
thinking of.
remember the.
I'm thinking of a different director. I think that's what I'm thinking of. But
Okay.
Yeah,
but
so
but
he's
but,
like a
but
Spanish dude, and it's very
yeah,
sort of it's exploitation-y, but he definitely had a very artsy feel to it and a very unique
yeah.
feel. And if you like movies like Repulsion or like Polanski's Repulsion or Altman's Images,
Yeah.
this is sort of in the same vibe. It's sort of a woman going crazy in a house. Or if you've read Kiera Janice's House of Psychotic Women, that
I
book.
just got it. Just got it in.
Yes. So that book is amazing. Highly recommended. And I believe she does talk about this, and it's sort of in that genre,
Great.
this sort of woman going crazy horror genre.
Great.
So it's one that's sort of, I think it's one of the best things we've ever released, but doesn't get talked about as much. So
Okay.
that's one that I wanted to do. Let's see. This one is a special baby for me. This is Woman Chasing the Butterfly of Death.
Nice.
That's a good title.
Yeah, so this is a Korean film, and if you've only know Korean cinema, and I'm a huge fan of Korean cinema, modern
Oh yeah.
Korean cinema. So if you only know Korean cinema, though, from like the Hallyu era, the like late '90s to now era, you'll be surprised that they did weird movies back in the '60s and '70s that are very not slick and very not like that very Hollywood level almost production values that modern Korean cinema has. So this is directed by Kim Ki-young, a favorite director of mine and a favorite director of a lot of Korean directors who are like Park Chan-wook and Bong Joon-ho. Was a big influence on them coming up. Very strange movies, and this is the strangest of the lot. So he did the movie The Housemaid. I don't know, back in 1960, it was one of the first movies that sort of changed the course of Korean cinema because it was dark and weird, and a lot of the movies up to then were just sort of kind of light melodramatic fare. It sort of changed everything. And so by 1978, he wasn't making as many hits as he was in the 60s, but he was making just fucking weird movies. And this is the fucking weirdest.
Cool.
It's I can't even describe it. It's like three movies in one. There's talking skeletons and mummies that come back into life as beautiful women who want to eat your liver, and it just and on and
Sounds
on.
like fun.
And conspiracies, people riding bulldozers, orange drinks. I can't. A plot
You
description
sold
You,
you
would be
sold
you, you
us.
impossible.
You
sell you
sold us.
sold it already. You
I
sold it
good. Well,
already.
good. Yeah. Everyone. Yeah. I mean, it is very weird. It's not quite a horror film, although there are horror elements to it. So,
Yeah.
if you're looking for something a bit off the beaten path, that's very, very off the beaten path. So one, I'll do maybe like two more quick ones.
All right.
So I mentioned this earlier. This is the Filipino movie. God, I keep getting the glare. Um,
Happens.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that,
That's okay.
everybody. I don't know. So Silip, Daughters of Eve is the subtitle. 1980s, early 1980s, Filipino sex horror freakout. I mean, it's again kind of like Woman Chasing a Butterfly of Death. Not quite a horror film, but it's got lots of really strong material in it, really horrifying stuff in it. I will put this out there for anyone who's very sensitive, and I think all of us are at that point. There is a really terrible animal death at the
Okay.
beginning of the film, and it really, I mean, some people got really angry with us about it. And I kind of can't blame them. It's really bad. A guy butchers like a water buffalo,
Oh,
and it's
geez.
very, very graphic.
Yeah.
But it's something that goes on every day in rural Filipino life, which this film is a depiction of. It's set in
Yeah.
a very far removed Filipino village, and it's just part of life. And it sets the tone for a lot of things, and even thematically and metaphorically pays off by the end of the film in a very interesting
Yeah.
way. But the film itself, if you can get past that, is just, it's a great, I'd say it's a masterpiece. I'd say
Okay.
it's one of the very best
Wow.
movies that we've released. And again, something, because it's not like a European horror movie, sort of gets overlooked.
Great.
And one last thing is this was recent. I know Jesse picked this as one of his. I think it was on your show, right, where you guys were going over top 5
Our favorite releases of
of the year,
Yeah,
and
it
2023.
he
was a
sort
favorite
of, and
releases.
like he
Yeah.
picked this, and I was glad. Let me make sure, because there is some nudity on that cover, so I don't want to get you guys. So you couldn't really see it anyway, but I'll block it off with my hand. But Haunted Turkish Bathhouse, Japanese
Yeah.
70s movie. It starts off like a European or Japanese pinku film, sex film.
Yeah.
Becomes sort of like a Yakuza film, and in the end is a cat monster film. Is a cat ghost.
Nice. It runs the gamut.
It
runs the
really
gamut
does.
in terms
It's
of
sort of, and it's
genre.
only 80 minutes long, and somehow
Oh my
packs
goodness.
3 separate genres in, and seamlessly, and it's super, super entertaining. That's one that I pull it out just because I really loved it, and it was one of the movies that I brought to the table. I made the deal for,
Nice.
so I'm proud of it. But it is something that's sort of getting a lot of attention for us right now. The retail edition just came out and is selling really, really well for us. So if there's anyone out there that that is out now as a retail edition. So
Yeah, I think.
Great.
so
Yeah, I
go get
believe
it.
it was just announced that it's getting the standard edition re-release.
Yeah, it's out right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So pre-orders that came through the Big Cartel, the Mondo Macabro Big Cartel side, I sent those out last week.
Oh, nice.
So those
People
are
should be
out.
getting them soon, if not
Yeah,
already.
Diabolic has them. I think they may be out of stock at the moment, but you can get it at mondomacabro.bigcartel.com. We have it in stock, and so I'm sending them out. $20 plus tax plus.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if people are interested in Mondo Macabro. I think you can find them on Diabolic. You can find them, of course, on the website you just said,
Yeah, yeah.
and
And that's
most
and
online
the best place to go
retailers.
if you want to contribute to a label. Like buying direct is always the best.
Mm.
So
Yeah,
And
that really helps us out, and that's why we do the
yeah.
limited editions. It makes, I mean, that's exactly why everyone does the limited edition model. Again, that's sort of one of those things that people have sort of cynical assumptions about. It's like, why is this limited edition? Why do you do it? It's because we create this sort of artificial scarcity, so people will come and buy direct from us. Otherwise, people won't buy direct from us; they'll buy from Amazon.
Yeah.
right.
And I can't blame them. I buy occasionally things from Amazon too. But that is the best way. Like if you just want to support any indie boutique label, is go to Vinegar Syndrome and buy from them direct. Go to
Exactly, exactly.
Cinex, Severin, buy
Yeah,
from them direct. Yeah.
yeah.
Cool.
Well, Jared, we appreciate you spending some time with
Cool.
us, talking about you and your work and what you do at Mondo, and of course, Neon Eagle is got its
Yes.
first release coming soon, and
Yep.
everybody just go follow. Where's the best place if people want to reach out to you or talk with you about movies? You're doing the social media stuff, so all Mondo
Yeah.
Macabro.
So if you want to follow Mondo Macabro, there's a Facebook page, there's a Twitter, there's an Instagram. Same with Neon Eagle. There's not an Instagram for Neon Eagle, although you can go to the Cauldron Films Instagram, but there is a specific Neon Eagle Twitter and Facebook. I'm on, if anyone out there is ever at the Blu-ray.com forums, the last big forum everyone seemed that gets used a lot. I'm there regularly. I check in almost daily on the Mondo Macabro and Neon Eagle threads. So
Okay,
and
nice.
occasionally chime in on
Nice.
other threads too, just because I'm there.
Might
So
as
that's a
well.
good way if you want to ask questions specifically. Yeah, and email address if you want to contact me directly about anything Mondo Macabro related is mondomacabrousa@gmail.com. And for Neon Eagle, it's neoneaglevideo@gmail.com.
Fantastic,
Yep.
fantastic. Well, Jared, thank you for your time,
Yeah,
and
thank you. Thank you for having me.
no, no problem, man.
Awesome.
Anytime,
Yeah, no
anytime.
problem.
And we'll see you. We'll see you around.
Bye. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
See you.
All right. So here we are back again. That was a great conversation with Jared. It was good having him. And so now we're going to move on to our normal Blu-ray announcement slate. And I guess this isn't really normal because this slate is fucking on steroids.
Gigantic.
It's just, it's
It seems like once again the last week of a month is either two things happen. Either one, it's a slow week because everybody's already gotten out all their announcements for the month, or two, everyone has now jam packed the last week because they want to get in all of their announcements before the end of the month. So we've got slate after slate after slate, and so much to talk about. So we're gonna get into that right away. First up, I guess I would like to talk about Shout Factory.
okay.
So Shout Factory once again has a mishmash of stuff from their Shout Select line, stuff from their regular line directly, stuff from Scream Factory. So let me kind of go through all this. So some of these films are going to be upgrades from Blu-rays they've already put out, or maybe upgrades from other places, or maybe stuff they're putting out for the first time. And some of this is kind of coming through the grapevine, as they say, so it's not from them directly, so I don't really have much info on it. But first up here is a movie I saw when it came out way back in 2004. I can say that now, I guess, because that's almost 20 years ago. This is the Ben Stiller and Jack Black starring film Envy. Do you
Mm,
remember this movie, Steven?
I do. Vaguely. It kind of makes me think about what was the movie? Was it called You, Me, and Dupree?
Yes.
It has that same kind of vibe, right? Where it's like a guy like kind of obsessed with these people and he keeps trying to like get involved with them. Um,
Not so much so. I
I
think
can't remember.
Ben Stiller and Jack Black play best friends, and they're co-workers, and I guess they're like lifelong friends, and they come up with a get rich quick scheme where it's this spray that literally makes dog poop disappear.
Okay,
Um,
I've
as lowbrow
completely,
as you can get.
honestly, I've completely forgotten this movie then because I don't remember that. Now I feel
Yeah,
like I should
that's
have
the
remembered
premise of
that.
this movie. Why it's called Envy and not like something more clever, I
Disappear
don't
poop.
know. I think the whole idea with envy is that like one becomes jealous of the other, and there's
Yeah,
like
yeah,
the backstabbing and things like that happening. Don't get into business with your friends. Essentially, is the
sure.
moral of the story. But yeah, that's this movie. I know it's never been well received. I'm pretty sure no one really brings it up when they talk about Jack Black or Ben Stiller's career. But I just remember this movie. It was probably something I saw or maybe rented at the time. Who knows? But yeah, that's Envy.
I'm a,
And then
I'm
after that,
I'm a Jack Black fan, so
oh
I mean,
yeah, me
I
too.
feel like I need to watch this again just to see maybe we're forgetting something. Maybe it's actually better than it's remembered
Could
for.
be.
You know.
Could be. But the next movie is called Endangered Species. It's about a retired New York cop on vacation in America's West who's drawn into a female sheriff's investigation of a mysterious series of cattle killings.
Hmm.
And that's an interesting kind of premise for a movie that has a very sci-fi-esque poster here. Um, I've never seen the movie, so I can't say
Yeah.
whether it's good or not, but I'll just say it came out in 1982, and it has a very interesting 80s sci-fi poster. Maybe there's some sci-fi stuff going on in it. For those of
Who
you who have seen it,
knows?
probably know better than I do. Next is a movie called from the year 2000, talk about 20 years ago, and that is Bless the Child, starring Kim uh, Basinger. Also, I think Jimmy Smits as well as Christina Ricci. And yeah, I've never seen the movie, although I'm a fan of everybody who's in it.
Yeah, I'm a Kim Basinger fan. LA
She was in
Confidential.
Batman
LA
and amongst
Confidential.
other films.
Yeah.
But moving on from there, we've got this is their first kind of Scream Factory upgrade, and I've actually been wanting to buy the Blu-ray of this for a couple of years now, so now I have to wait. And I'll be honest, Steven, if for those of you who haven't jumped on the whole Scream Factory Collector's Edition Blu-ray train or are way behind or have been thinking of getting some for years, I would wait because all of them are getting 4K upgrades right now.
Yeah.
All of them are, seemingly. And this is Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs from 1991. Yeah, I've been wanting this movie for years, and I guess I just have to wait until April 25th to get the 4K UHD upgrade.
Have you seen it?
I have not seen it. That's kind of why I was
Yeah.
waiting to buy it to watch it. It's one of those.
Yeah, me
I'm
either.
weird
I
like that.
I know all the horror people they're probably giving us shit right now, but
Mm,
if I want to make it clear, if it's never been made clear here, me and Andrew are probably more uh, uh, educated in classic cinema. You would say? Would you say that? That like
yeah, I would
if
say.
you'd say we've spent more of our time watching movies in classic cinema, a little bit of international too, of course, but like when it comes to horror and cult, we're not as educated.
I would say, oh yeah, they're much better, well-versed experts than
Yeah,
you or
yeah.
I when it comes to the films of like a Wes Craven or other stuff like that.
We might know our
In
mainstream
general,
horror, but like when it comes to the culty stuff, like in the
I don't
people that
even
are
know if this is
involved.
necessarily a cult film, but I
Well,
know that
no,
it's Wes
but
Craven, so it's obviously he's
yeah,
a
yeah.
legend in
Sure,
the
sure.
genre.
But there's some Wes Craven that is lesser known that I just I don't I wouldn't have even realized. I think some people were even a little bit, unless you're in the know, you follow Wes Craven's career, that even Red Eye was a Wes Craven movie.
Mm,
Like when we
one of
talked
his
about it
later
last time.
films. Yeah, which we
It's
talked
just
about last time.
one of them things I just want to make clear that if people are giving a shit about, I know they're not. We have good fans,
Right.
but still, I just want people to be made clear. Especially when you hear us talking with Jared in this interview today, we told him straight up, like, we haven't really collected Mondo Macabro yet. So, it's because this part of cinema is like not really a place that we've delved in too deep yet when it comes to our collecting.
Yeah.
Um,
I would
so
also say that when it comes to the horror genre, you kind of have to seek it out, really, when you want to get down like to the deeper, you know, below the level surface of stuff. You have to run into the right people that are talking about it, that are in it, that are fans of it,
yeah,
like Jared, who we just talked
you
to,
have to,
and he can
yeah.
give you suggestions. They
Well,
can
that's
like
the thing.
tell you,
Yeah, because
"Hey,
I
this is
think that
good."
there's, and this is no hit on that genre, but like horror is I think filled with so much crap that you got to like the people that really pay attention and have watched all that crap can really tell you where the gems are, like, and
Mm.
so you have to like, yeah, you got to have a guy, you got to have somebody that can like
Yeah,
point you in the right
you need to
direction.
go to somebody who someone who you trust, or at least somebody you know, and
Yeah,
someone that you know who knows it well.
yeah,
Kind of like, I guess, that's kind of the reputation I want Steven and I to have when it comes to movie releases and stuff like that. Like, I like to at least uh, try to let people know that we know what we're talking about. You know what I
yeah.
mean? Like,
Well,
you know what I mean? I
I think.
dedicate so much time and effort. I hope it sounds like I know what I'm doing.
Well, I think what we attempt to do is to show that we know a little bit enough. We know enough about film that we can talk about a little bit, and enough about the Blu-ray stuff that that we can be informational to a point. I don't. I think there's some people that do it a little bit better than we do when it comes to like the overall collecting habits and the overall collecting universe that goes on out there. Like, we don't cover everything, and we don't. I don't think we get as detail oriented with every aspect of the collecting community. Because that's just not. We're into it, but we're not. You know, we're not sitting here doing super detailed videos about you know sales and
Mm,
like getting into the nitty gritty about certain things like that. And that's not where our interests lie. Like we care about that stuff. We want to let you be informed, but we're not. um you can spend your money how you want to spend your money. We just want to talk about the movies. So I know we're going on a tangent here, but
I know, Steven, you're
yeah,
going way off
this
course.
is my fault.
Yeah,
But
this is why I'm
this is one of
totally
the
blaming
few
you for
my
all this.
fault tangents. But
Oh, okay.
most
Um,
of them are your fault.
I do
Um,
want to, yeah, do want to get back on set. I think, to be honest, I mean, just for my own sake, I do follow all the sales because
no,
I
you
gotta know
do.
what the prices are looking
Well,
like
you
for
do,
things.
but what I'm saying is like, for instance, our friend Ryan over at Disconnected, I would say he's one of the best. He's one of the best at really keeping people informed with all types of all that stuff and super deep. Like he knows that stuff like the back of his hand.
Well, yeah,
Um,
someone has to do it.
well, somebody has to do it, and
Just so that we as consumers and collectors and fans can be informed about it,
yeah.
so that we know what to do. Because I'll be honest, there's not a lot of straight marketing when it comes to a lot of these labels that we talk about, or a lot of the retailers online really don't market their sales. You kind of have to stumble into it for the most part, unless certain sales come every single year at the same time. The Criterion Flash sales, the Indicator Flash sales, they seem to come at the same time every year, so you can kind of anticipate them. But if some retailer online is all of a sudden having a great sale, I'm glad that somebody notices.
Well,
You
what
know what
I'm
I
what
mean?
I'm saying is navigating them, because like certain
Mm,
sales are more like intricate. Like the Vinegar Syndrome sale is like super. There's like a
yeah.
lot of roles. There's a lot of like things about the subscribers and versus what you're going to get here and there. They know. So there's people that know it a lot better. We don't sit here and go through all that stuff. Like that's not that we
Oh,
don't
yeah, and
care.
a lot
It's
of
it's
people have been doing it for years. Vinegar Syndrome's been around for 10 years, so
yeah,
they've been having their sale all the time. Steve and I are relatively new to it over the
yeah,
last
yeah,
couple of years, and even then, they change, like, things now and again. Like, they just changed their whole subscription,
yeah,
situation there.
yeah,
But, yeah, so moving let's get back on track.
yeah. Back on track. Sorry about
So,
that,
back
guys.
on track, Shout Factory, through their Shout Select line, is putting out a Jackie Chan Collection Volume 2, which will cover films from 1983 to 1993. And I'm not sure which films are in the set because they haven't announced which
Yeah, they
films
haven't
are in it
announced
yet.
it yet.
I'm assuming a lot of the stuff that's going to be in it is stuff that's already come out through 88 films, through Eureka, maybe even Arrow. I just feel like a lot of his stuff is getting re-released right now. We're gonna talk a little bit
Yeah,
more about him later because one of his films is getting re-released
yeah,
again.
yeah.
So that's volume 2 of Jackie Chan. Next we have a movie called Flashback, came out in 1990, and this film stars. We just finished talking about Dennis Hopper recently, so this stars Dennis Hopper and Kiefer Sutherland. Steven, I know you're a big Kiefer Sutherland person.
Yeah. It looks like he's playing Jack Bauer in this. Jack Bauer
He's got the
24.
glasses. He's got
Yeah,
the glasses.
when he was, looking after the president, I think in it's like one of the later seasons, it could be him there, but I don't remember ever seeing Dennis Hopper.
Oh, in 24? No.
No, yeah, that's
But this movie, it says, "At last, the
well,
feds have"
actually, sorry. Hey,
okay.
sorry to he was in 24. He was
Oh,
literally in the first season of 24. I forgot about that. He's the bad guy
oh.
in the first season of 24.
I never watched 24, so you have
Fuck,
to
what the hell have you been doing with yourself?
I've been waiting for 20 for first of all, this is maybe never gonna happen. I've been waiting for those seasons to come out on Blu-ray so I could
Yeah,
buy them
yeah.
and watch
I
them.
would I would buy it again. I have all the DVDs, sets, and they're some of the
Talk
early
about
ones are they're
yeah,
huge and bulky and nice,
don't
but
don't
but
get me going.
yeah, but yeah,
There's been
the-
so many re-releases of 24 on DVD in different sizes.
yeah,
There's been the big thick one like you just talked about. There was the thin like DVD. There was the thin pack sets. I'm pretty sure they put out. Then the DVD case size sets that they put out with 24. Fox loves to re-release their series on DVD in different packaging, but they never like to upgrade them to Blu-ray at any point. disturbs
Yeah.
me so much. They were one of the earliest studios to be like, "Yeah, we're not putting out our shows on Blu-ray anymore."
Yeah.
Um, that's just me going on my little TV rant. Got to get one in every episode now. Um, but this movie says at last the feds have caught him. Infamous '60s radical Huey Walker is heading for jail. So how come it's Huey's uptight FBI escort who ends up behind bars? And his uptight escort is Kiefer Sutherland.
So
That
uptight.
seems to be what the title and what the picture suggests here on the cover. Um, yeah, so
It's funny.
more of
It's
that.
funny Kiefer Sutherland's career because like early on when he was younger, like he played a lot of like juvenile delinquent types,
Yes,
and like the vampires, and like crazy things, and then he was a racist a lot. He was played a racist a lot in the early part of his career, and then he got later in his career and he starts to play like straight laced hero
like
types.
government
Yeah,
agents
yeah,
and
like he played the president in a
presidents.
show. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
And
don't know what.
this came out in 1990s. This was like what? Like a couple of years after he was in Lost Boys as
Yeah.
like you just said, a juvenile delinquent vampire.
Right. He was also a racist in A Time to Kill. He's one of the
Yeah,
guys
which
that
came out after this movie.
I,
Yeah, a
I
few
think
years
so. Yeah,
after.
maybe.
Yeah, I think A Time to Kill was what, like 1995. Um, yeah, but I
I
just
want to
love
watch. I
Dennis
do want
Hopper.
to watch this movie. I mean, I don't know that I'm going to buy it just because, but I kind of want to watch this movie because I mean it's Dennis Hopper and Kiefer. I mean it sounds like a funky movie. Like
Yeah,
I
it sounds like it sounds to be honest, it sounds a lot like the next movie I'm gonna talk about, and that is Midnight Run.
mm,
Um, well, this movie has a bounty hunter trying to escort somebody, and this other movie has an FBI agent trying to escort somebody. So it's
yeah.
like they kind of go hand in hand a bit. But Midnight Run is getting the 4K UHD upgrade treatment from Shout Select, and as someone who just bought the Blu-ray like within the last 2 years, a little frustrated, but that's what happens.
Well,
That's what happens. It's
that's
gonna
to
be
be
amazing.
honest, within 2 years isn't
I know it's not as bad
it's
as
not that
someone
bad as
who bought it and then like a week later they
Shout
upgrade.
is the worst though when it comes to these upgrades. Like
Yeah,
they're
because they're doing. It seems like they're doing all of them.
yeah.
And so if you've never seen Midnight Run, it's the Martin Brest film starring Robert De Niro as well as Charles Grodin, and I think it's a great film. Came out in 1988, holds up incredibly well. The late great Yaphet, what's it? Yaphet. Oh boy, I'm gonna butcher the last name. Yaphet Koda. Hold on, I'm gonna look this up so I don't do it. Yaphet Kodo. I was right.
You're too
He's
close
in
to
the
the
film
mic.
as well, and yeah, this movie's fantastic. If you've never seen Midnight Run, it's super. I still think underrated. People
Yeah.
don't talk about it enough.
Yeah, I believe I have that in my collection.
Yes,
It's been
I've
a
got
minute.
it now as well. But speaking of doing something that's a little sly, Steven, talking about Shout Factory kind of, you know, upgrading stuff right away as people keep buying these. Um, this movie has been announced twice this week.
Oh God.
This is the movie The Haunting of Julia, also known as Full Circle from 1977, starring Mia Farrow. This movie just is part of the imprint slate we're going to talk about later on in the episode.
And it was
And right
actually
away, it's already getting a 4K upgrade.
and it was also it's been brought up 3 times this week because our guest our special interview we just had released this past week with John Allen Simon. He was actually involved in the release of this movie. So
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
I also heard through the grapevine this movie's also getting a release in the UK as well. And I also heard all three of these releases are going to have different special features.
oh, that's.
So take your
I
pick
hope you don't
as
really.
to which one you
I
want.
hope somebody doesn't really love this movie and feels the need to buy 3 releases of this movie just to get
I
the.
I mean, if you want it all and you can afford it, go right ahead.
Yeah, go
I
for
mean,
it.
I've done
I've
things
done
like
it.
that
Yeah,
before as well. Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, it's just kind of weird that it's all of it hitting all at once. You know what I mean? Like this
Yeah.
movie just got announced, and it's like, nope, we're
Honestly,
doing 4K.
it's better than spreading it out and pissing everybody off
Yeah, I guess
from
that's
spreading.
true.
Yeah.
I guess that's also true. But I think that's it for Shout Factory when it comes to anything else.
No, I think that's it.
Yeah, that's it. So we're gonna move on to someplace else. Um,
Over to
let's go.
Kino.
We're gonna go to Kino. Okay, Stephen made the
I
executive
got it.
decision to go to Kino.
I make decisions too here.
That is very true. He makes all the important ones. I'll say that.
But I get this Kino. So we only got a few
Yeah,
releases on Kino. The first one we're going to talk about here is a big one. I think it's been hinted at maybe earlier, but
I think it was at least announced. At least
yeah,
announced.
yeah, coming April 18th to 4K UHD, we're going to have the 50th anniversary edition of the Brian De Palma film Serpico. Um,
I
yeah,
think
this
it's
or is it Francis Ford Coppola?
I
Am
think
I
it's Sidney
thinking?
Lumet.
That's what I'm thinking. I don't know why I thought either one of them. I guess it's just 70s directors. I'm just thinking the wrong
Yeah, I know.
people.
It's like spin the wheel and you'll hit a 70s
Yeah,
director.
I don't know why, but yeah, Sidney Lumet film Serpico, starring Al Pacino. Um, yeah, yeah, this is. I think this is one people have been wanting upgraded for a while.
Yeah,
It's
I'm one
kind
of
of been
those
stuck in
people.
the Blu-ray realm, like an old Blu-ray for a while.
Yeah,
Um,
the old Blu-ray came out in 2013. I know because I have it. That was put out by Warner Brothers, and I think it was re-released in 2017 by Paramount. Same disc,
yeah,
no difference whatsoever. And I remember that disc looking very, very good, but having just a couple of special features that I think were ported over from the 2002 DVD release. So
yeah,
yeah, and I'm pretty sure it was released on Blu-ray by Studio Canal in 2011. So it's been, it's been around, but this is a pretty deluxe release. It's 2
yeah.
discs,
Two
bunch of
discs. Yeah,
special features on the second disc. So yeah, it's Sidney Lumet in the 70s, it's Al Pacino in the 70s. It's a recipe made for greatness.
yeah, yeah. I can see. I can see maybe some of the other Lumet stuff getting special treatment too, like Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, we're getting
Uh,
to that point where these are
yeah,
gonna have big milestone anniversary releases.
yeah. But next, what we got on the list, we're going to go to a very kind of different film here. Coming April 11th, we have a film called from 1965 called "The Truth About Spring," um, and I don't know anything about this one. It
It says
looks,
it's a swashbuckling romp.
hmm,
Um, yeah.
that's about it.
Yeah, an easygoing Caribbean sailor is searching for sunken treasure with his tomboy daughter, portrayed by Hallie Mills, from who was probably most well known for being in The Parent Trap, the original incarnation of that. Things get complicated in their houseboat um, when a young wealthy lawyer sets sail with them in search of excitement, riches, and maybe even love.
Ah,
Breathtaking film. Yeah, directed by Richard Thorpe, who directed Ivanhoe and Jailhouse Rock.
hmm,
Jailhouse Rock being the Elvis Presley film.
yeah,
Um, yeah, if you're a big fan of Haley Mills out there, this is made for you. Um,
yeah,
but what do we have next?
yeah, yeah. And the only thing it looks like feature wise is a commentary, a new commentary. So. Um,
Yes,
by film historian screenwriter Gary Gerani. But next, what we got is a film coming out April 11th, and it's from 2002, so a more recent film here, Man on the Train. And I believe this is actually a French film.
yes,
Yes, so Man on a Train, directed by Patrice Leconte. I don't know if I said that right. Sounds pretty good to me. Um, Stars Jean Rockford and Johnny Holiday. Um, yeah, it says in this elegant crime drama, a mystery, a stranger is the lone passenger on a disembarking. A lone passenger disembarking from a train in a sleepy French village. His name is. I'm not going to read this whole paragraph,
yeah,
but
no. Yeah, he's a criminal who's looking to knock over the local bank. Um, yeah,
yeah, it's
and he meets a retired poetry teacher, and through their unexpected friendship, both men come to realize they have been given the opportunity to look back on their lives. Sounds very existential. Sounds very interesting.
sounds
Apparently it was a
French.
big hit at the Venice Film Festival,
Sounds very
winning
French.
winning both Best Picture and Best Actor.
Huh.
I'm
Huh.
intrigued, actually.
Yeah. Huh.
Came out 2002, so about 20 years old.
All right. Next, what we got coming, it's just a coming soon with a brand new 2K master, is the 1991 film Neon City, starring Michael Ironside, somebody called Vanity. You know who that is?
Yeah, yeah. I, I have to look. I'll have to look them up if it's the person I'm thinking of.
But
Yeah, she was in The Last Dragon.
oh, okay. But yeah, I don't see anything about what this film's about on at least on their blurb here, but it looks like it's some type of
I do like Michael
futuristic.
Ironside.
Well, of course, we love Michael Ironside. He blows people's heads up. He's he's running after Schwarzenegger on
You want
Mars.
Yeah, you wanna know what the IMDb synopsis is of
Yes,
this
please,
film?
please
It
tell
says,
me.
in quotes, "Mad Max clones set in the not too distant future about a group of people trying to escape to a safe haven called Neon City after a solar disaster that has decimated the Earth."
Sounds like a
Oh,
rea
s
the timeline's not too far off.
no, it's
2053.
not.
That could
Yeah,
happen in that time period.
that's
Uh,
very true.
yeah,
Yeah, so it's I guess yeah, it's like a Mad Maxian type dystopian future.
I kind of want to watch this movie.
So do
Um,
I. I
yeah,
do like Michael Ironside.
I do. Especially when he's starring in something. Um, but I was just talking about Schwarzenegger, and now we got to talk about something really important here, guys. So
Oh
we
goodness,
know we
yes.
know Schwarzenegger for his muscles, his Conan the Barbarians, his Terminators. But during the '90s, he had this run of wanting to do more comical stuff like Twins, and he had a couple others. But the
Junior,
I, Junior, yeah,
Jingle All the Way.
that might be the worst of all of them is Junior, but probably the best of all of them is probably the 1990 film Kindergarten Cop.
Nice.
Um, yes, this of course is the film where he plays a cop who goes undercover to figure out because there's a kid in the class that he doesn't know which one it is, but that a criminal who had just escaped prison is coming to potentially kidnap his child, and they don't know who's his child, so they have to like kind of monitor. He becomes the teacher in the class, and he has to monitor to figure out who he thinks is the guy's child, and it's got a lot of quotable lines, specifically, "It's not a tumor," or "Put the cookie down." Them two things. But it's a fun movie. I think a lot of people look back on this movie. We kind of make fun of it, but it's kind of looked back fondly, I think.
Oh,
What do
I
you
think
think?
it is,
Yeah.
especially for our generation.
Yeah.
Because 'cause I'll say this, I don't think maybe I've mentioned this a few times, but Twins was, like, the first Arnold film I ever saw when
Oh,
I was a
really?
little kid. And then the second one was Kindergarten Cop.
Yeah.
So, like, they went hand in hand, both directed by Harold Ramis. One came out, I think, right after the other. Um, and yeah, this movie, I remember watching this on VHS when I was a kid so many times, and it's
I don't
exactly what Steven
know.
said.
Yeah, I don't know what was my first Schwarzenegger. It's a jumble because I watched so much of it. I watched even as a young kid, I watched Schwarzenegger movies I should not have been watching. Like
Mm.
I watched both Terminator films at the time that were out, and even movies like Raw Deal. Like I was, these are movies I shouldn't have been watching. As I don't know why my parents let me watch Raw Deal.
Yeah,
Um,
my parents, I guess, were the opposite of that. Like, they not strict, but, like, they wouldn't let like, at 4 years old, they wouldn't let me watch, like, Terminator or
yeah,
Terminator 2. Granted, Terminator 2 came out when I was,
yeah,
4, but whatever. It's like, stuff like that, like, nu obviously, nudity wasn't something they would let me see even up until, like, later on when I was a young kid, teenage years and whatnot. Even to this day, I think I mentioned it several times. It's still awkward when you're watching a movie and like a sex scene comes on and you're watching it with your parents. I still find it incredibly
nah, not
awkward.
anymore.
Incredibly awkward.
Not for me.
Yeah, I guess it's a little yeah. I mean, we're both in our 30s now. We really should get over it, but
I'm over.
still,
I've been over it, Andrew.
still,
You need
I
to get
really
over
don't
it.
want to see a sex scene with my mother sitting next to me. Like, I really don't want
Come on,
that to be a
man, just
thing.
try it.
Well,
I'll send you.
it's happened. It's happened. It's awkward. Uh,
Why don't you order one of the Doris Wishman sets and just sit down with your mom, watch some Doris Wishman.
You know what? It's a historical. That's a historical film set, so might as well.
Yeah,
Um, I
I'm.
watched. I mean, this is going off a little bit.
Oh, this
Remember
is
the beginning of Bridesmaids.
Oh
Not the
yeah,
beginning, but towards the beginning of Bride, there's a sex scene between um what's who starred in Bridesmaids?
Kristen Wiig and John
Kristen
Hamm.
Wiig and John Hamm,
Yeah,
and it's so over the top and so ridiculous.
yeah,
And I first time I watched that movie was with my mother. Um,
it's a
yeah,
good one.
and I'm
That's a
pretty sure
good
I
one.
watched Wedding Crashers with my mother, and there's a
That's a
whole
good one.
montage at the beginning of that movie of them going to different weddings and crashing different weddings, and in the unrated cut, it
They're
shows them,
sleeping with
like,
tons of
sleeping
women.
with a bunch of women, but in the unrated cut, the women are naked, where
Yeah,
I think is the rated cut, they're not or something. So yeah. So it's happened, but it's still awkward.
yeah,
But
not
I'll say
really.
this, Kindergarten Cop, there's none of that in there.
No, no, no. It's just kind of a fish out of
Fun,
water type
yeah,
of, the cop trying to be, who's tough. Schwarzenegger playing the tough guy he is in most movies, having to then play it down to kids and pretend to be a teacher, and then he meets, one of the teachers there. He kind of starts to have a romanticness
yeah,
with, and
he does,
yeah,
of
and it's
course.
it's it's a sweet movie.
Yeah, it's a fun movie.
Yeah,
I remember the climax of the movie is a lot of fun. The beginning of the movie starts off like you're watching an action Arnold film because it
yeah.
starts off with him, like, doing his cop rogue type stuff, like stopping some bad guy. But then the movie switches completely to something else, very quickly.
He
But
he.
this is getting a 4K UHD release from Kino. This has been out on Blu-ray for years by, I think, Universal. Pretty sure has had it out for years. Many people probably already have this movie several times over. But yeah, this is another nostalgic pick for me.
Yeah, I was just trying to think that, you know, because there's always good lines in his movies. He's one line. I just said a couple of them, but I feel there was one towards the beginning where he was breaking down into. I feel like there was a great line he had at the beginning of the film where he was breaking into that like crack house or something. Bunch of kids are there or whatever, and I'm trying to think of what the line was, but
I don't remember. I
all
haven't
right,
seen the movie in like 30 years.
all right. Well, you move us on while I look.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's move along because I'm pretty sure that's the up to date Kino slate for this week. So we're gonna move to something that actually came out way early in the week. I think Monday this dropped, and this is the Warner Archive announces their March releases coming out of the woodwork, coming out of the fog from John Carpenter's The Fog. Is Warner Archive once again with a really good slate here. They have one, two, three, four, I think six films here. I probably can't really count, but let's go through them. I'll Cry Tomorrow, Camille, Confessions of a Nazi Spy, The Prince and the Showgirl, Flamingo Road, and Neptune's Daughter. And that is their slate of just classic Hollywood films.
Yeah,
Um, I there's some here that I really want that I'm gonna be putting on my upcoming calendar. Flamingo Road is a Michael Curtiz film starring Joan Crawford. Um, yeah, I got to watch it for this episode, and I thought it was really, really good. Um, it's a movie that has Sydney Greenstreet's in it as well, and Joan Crawford plays this character who's like part of a local carnival. She's like a dancer or whatever, and the carnival kind of picks up and leaves, and she decides to stay in that town, and she gets kind of romantically involved with someone in the town who is kind of an up and coming politician. He's like the local like deputy sheriff, but the movers and shakers of the political climate of the town kind of want this guy to climb up the ranks and kind of use him as their next candidate or puppet. So they're trying to like kind of oppress her, and she gets involved with someone else. But it's all about like political corruption as well as oppression and things like that. Sidney Greenstreet's such slime in this movie. Fantastic role, absolutely fantastic. Um, but Steven, are you familiar with any of these before I go on?
I wish I could say I was, man.
Okay,
Nobody knows this, but I have been dealing with sickness, COVID. I got whole family got COVID this past week, so
which is really rough.
no watching for me happened. Um, so
That's okay.
only going on what I've seen, and it's very few things in this slate
That's okay
this week.
because I watched too much this week to where my mind became
Is there
mush.
not a too much for you?
I guess so. I don't. I
I don't
kept
think there
hitting
is a too
like
much for
I
you.
kept hitting walls. You know what I mean? Like you know how I would watch like 3 movies in a row and just hit a wall where I would just be like, "I don't know if I got anything left in me for tonight."
I think 3
Um,
movies in a night's pretty good. I
yeah,
mean,
I
it's
guess, but I
it's
was
about a
trying to,
6
like, watch as
hour,
much as I could. But I did get through all of these. I had seen a couple of these beforehand, and I had got to watch all of them because luckily, like I said, this was announced on Monday, which was right at the beginning of the week. But Flamingo Road is great. The Prince and the Showgirl is actually one of the few Marilyn Monroe films that hasn't made the jump to Blu-ray yet. A lot of her films have. And this is the one that was directed by Laurence Olivier, starring Laurence Olivier. This is the movie that I believe. Remember My Week with Marilyn,
yeah.
the film with Michelle Williams playing Marilyn Monroe. I think the events in that film took place around the making of this movie. I'm pretty sure The Prince and the Showgirl. But this is the one where um, that she's um she like Laurence Olivier is kind of like this stuffy British like royalty type of guy, and she's like the common chorus girl, if you will, or something like that. And they have this contentious relationship that ends up turning into a romance over time. Um, yeah, it's one of those types of films. But yeah, this is came out in 1957, and if you've been collecting Marilyn Monroe films this whole time, I think you have to add this one because it kind of slots right in there with all of the other ones. I think most of her filmography so far has been put out by I want to say 20th Century Fox, just off the top of my head. I know I bought I bought a bunch of them, and of course, um, what's the one that Criterion put out?
Some Like It
Some Like
Hot.
It Hot. Yeah,
Okay.
they put that out, and I think Some Like It Hot ended up getting a 4K
You got a
release from
Kino.
Kino.
Yep.
Yes, they ended up getting their hands on that. Did that. So that's The Prince and the Showgirl. Confessions of a Nazi Spy is a film starring Edward G. Robinson came out, I think 1942, no, 1939, and I think this was one of the earliest kind of anti-Nazi films to come out from Hollywood. I think I remember reading that. So it's a movie dealing with espionage and Nazi infiltration in American life and them trying to them trying to find it and snuff it out and stuff like that. The movie stars Francis Lederer, George Sanders is in this film, Paul Lucas. It's a film directed by Antoine. I think that's Antoine. No, Anatoly Litvak. Um, I thought it was pretty solid. It's available right now on HBO Max. Take with that what you will, because who knows how long those movies are going to last on there,
Yeah.
or that service is going to last. But I remember Anatol Litvak. He directed Anastasia with Ingrid Bergman, which she won an Oscar for. He directed The Snake Pit with Olivia de Havilland. Sorry, Wrong Number, which is getting a Blu-ray release from Shout Factory. Oh, actually, already got one. No, it's getting released by Shout Factory. So yeah, he's probably a director you've seen around doing stuff. Um, yeah, this is an overall solid slate. Um, Camille, I thought was fantastic, starring Greta Garbo. Highly recommended. I'll Cry Tomorrow is kind of a melodrama, starring Susan Hayworth, but also incredibly well acted. Very, very good. Yeah, I would recommend all of these films. And The Neptune's Daughter is starring Esther Williams. So if you're a fan of Esther Williams, you got to get that. This is a classic Warner Archive slate of plucking great stuff from their catalog. I'm glad that they're still doing this stuff. Really, I am.
I mean, this is a big slate for them. This
Yeah.
is yeah.
Yeah, just a really big, awesome slate from them. Just plucking stuff from the 30s and 40s and stuff from the 50s. So it's in that window of great stuff. But I guess we can move on from there
Well, before
to
we do
yeah,
that,
yeah.
um,
What do you got?
I have a couple quotes from Kindergarten Cop I remembered.
Nice,
Um,
nice.
of course, there's the other really great one that's um, boys have penises, girls have vaginas.
Now I
That's another
remember
great
that
one.
one.
But the
Hey,
one at the
thanks for the
beginning,
tip. Thanks for the
yeah,
tip.
yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. Bring that up to your mom when you're watching one of them sex
Well,
scenes.
that's how Arnold responds. He says,
Yeah,
"Thanks for the tip."
yeah, yeah. But the one at the beginning I was trying to remember was when he's in the place and the guys are like, who is this man? He's like, I'm the potty pooper,
Oh
you know.
my goodness,
Yeah,
that line is classic.
yeah, potty pooper. So yeah.
I don't know if you remember this, but years ago, people would have those soundboards or those
Oh,
online soundboards
I
with
used it.
oh, nice. Where they would
Dude,
have
I was
all
one
the
of them
Arnold quotes?
kids.
Yeah.
I was one of them kids that prank called people and you would use soundboard to use, like I use Sam Jackson, but I would use Arnold a lot. And
Of course.
I would use Jack Black. Jack Black had one, but I'd use especially when you're using Jack Black's, you could use the whole thing where he did the thing for Tenacious D where he's talking about like McNuggets. He's like, I want I want the 4-piece McNuggets, but I only want 2 of them, and you can shove the other 2 up your ass. You know, so you like call McDonald's and threat. But yeah, the Arnold ones are the best because he's got so many quotable lines that you could just be like, who is your daddy and what does he do?
Yes.
And it's like, what? So yeah, I used to
Yeah, you
call
can
people
go
and use
onto
that all the
YouTube
time.
right now and watch people prank calling people who apparently have never heard Arnold Schwarzenegger's voice before because
Dude, as
they
soon as
just
I
fall
hear
right
this
into
shit,
it.
I'm gonna know it's somebody messing with me. Yeah,
Yeah, obviously, because
yeah,
you're well versed in
yeah,
The Arnold lore.
yeah.
Um, but moving on from there,
Yeah.
let's go to Eureka,
Okay.
because they had an early slate this week, and Eureka only has 2 releases, but one is a collection of films. First film is The Bullet Train, not to be confused with the recent movie called Bullet Train.
Yeah, you don't want to confuse it.
Yeah, this is completely different.
This one just came out like 40 years ago, so it's
Yeah, exactly. And then next is Creeping Horror, which is a collection of like Universal catalog horror films. Um, and it's Murders in the Zoo, Horror Island, Night Monster, House of Horrors. I got to watch all of these films, and they're all okay. Like, they're not really spectacular in any way. They're kind of, you know, B Universal horror
they're
films
like
from the 30s and
watchable.
40s.
They're watchable, but they're
They're
not
watchable, but they don't really star any,
not
like,
super
big time
ambitious.
stars or anything like that. They're not like I think Bela Lugosi's in one of them. He may be,
Yes.
like, the biggest star out of all of this. Um, but yeah, they're fine. They're nothing great. There's some audio commentary on a couple of the films. Actually, on all the films, there's an audio commentary, just different people doing them. Um yeah, and then the Bullet Train is actually something I wish I got to watch, but I didn't have the time. That came out in 1975, and it's 152 minutes long. I think that's why I kind of stayed away
Jesus.
from it, just in the interest of time.
That'd
Um,
have been your whole night.
yeah, yeah, kind of it's having to do with it's like a what's the movie Speed? It's kind of like that premise, but on a train.
So
Yeah,
somebody's
it's like
got a bomb on a
yeah, it says a bomber tells the police that unless they pay his ransom, he will explode a bomb he placed on a Japanese bullet train. Any attempt to defuse the bomb or slow the train under 80 kilometers an hour will
Oh shit.
automatically detonate the
It
bomb. It's
fucking
the
is
plot of Speed.
speed. It is fucking speed.
Yeah, it's like Speed took that
I
premise
mean,
and was like, "How
it
can we
says it
do
in the
this?"
blurb right here. Most well known for inspiring 1994's Hollywood blockbuster Speed.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
There you go. So yeah, it literally is that movie. Wow.
It
Okay,
kinda
so
goes
now
to
I
sh
really want
when
this
you
movie.
start investigating I was just gonna say, Steven, when you start, like, looking into a lot of cinema like we do, you realize that most of cinema is kind of just remaking the same thing they've already made, oh,
This
just in different languages or in different, like,
this
time frames
I'm
or timelines. Like,
I,
one's in the '70s and one's in the '90s,
I
it's
got to
the
get
same
this
movie.
now. I have to get this
Yeah, I
now.
kinda wanna see
I
this
kind of
now.
get I got to get this and then pair it with my speed disc. Like it's got to happen now. Now this is, I mean, and yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sold.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
sold.
me too. But let's stay in the UK. Let's go with Indicator. Indicator, who we have already talked about this month for announcing. What did they announce? Their March releases.
Yeah, it was a group of 4 classic Hollywood titles. You
Yeah,
had
so
the
we got another
it was their
email this
March.
month
Yeah, yeah,
saying they're
yeah.
doing their
It
April
was
stuff.
in their last newsletter that they were going to announce another newsletter in the same month. It was
Yes.
yeah. So that we knew this was happening. It was a little bit quicker turnaround. I think they wanted to do that just because they were so behind at the end of last
Oh
year that they
yeah,
kind
yeah.
of
They did
wanted
have a
to.
lot of delays and things.
Yeah, so I think they just wanted to get some excitement out there quicker for their new upcoming stuff. And of course, this slate here was actually brought up on our last talk with them back in December, which was
They did hint at it that
4Ks.
these were or this format was coming
Well,
at least.
he said that they were going to be Jean Rollin films on 4K. That's what
Oh,
he said. He
okay.
didn't say the movies, but he said they were going to be Jean Rollin films in 4K. So
Yes,
we knew
and
we
we
were going to get
have
that.
the Shiver of the Vampires, and we have two Orphan Vampires, and you can buy these either in their 4K editions or their regular Blu-ray editions, depending on your preference.
And they're all in limited edition packaging.
Yeah, so they're all in the thicker limited edition packagings,
Yeah,
and they both come with a plethora of special features,
of course they do.
including a limited edition 80-page book. They're both region free because 4K is region free. I can tell you that both of these movies have received a Region A release, but back in 2012, um, I think the Shiver of the Vampires was released by Kino back in 2012. I think that disc is out of print. And Two Orphan Vampires received a Blu-ray release from I think a company called like Redemption, a company I've never heard of up until like now.
Yeah,
And either way, these are obviously the discs you want if you want these movies. I mean,
yeah,
they both got the restorations, they've got the the special features, they've got what you want. I got to watch both of these. These are both streaming online. I know the Shiver of the Vampires is streaming on Tubi and Canopy. If you have access to that with your local library, and I know Two Orphan Vampires is also streaming on Canopy, so I got to watch both of them. Um, com- Rather different films entirely, and yet they're both dealing with like vampires and vampirism.
yeah.
Um, I like Two Orphan Vampires more than I like The Shiver of the Vampires, but that's just me
Yeah, I, mean,
personally.
I don't have anything to say. I mean, I've definitely heard of Jean Rollin, or Jean Rollin.
Right.
Um, I've heard the name a lot. I know he's like a culty French filmmaker.
Yes.
Um,
I
and
know that
so yeah,
Kat Ellinger has written extensively
well,
on his films.
she's got a new documentary coming out about him.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go.
so
So
yeah,
she's the expert,
yeah,
and um, so that's probably where I heard of him recently. But I hadn't really delved into his films up
n-
until now.
yeah,
And these films both take place at kind of different parts of his like filmography. One is 1971, which is The Shiver of the Vampires, and the other one is like 1997. So
wow,
20
huh.
something years apart.
I'm
And
kind
I
of
guess that's why they're
revisiting
so
the
different.
genre. Yeah.
Yeah, so this first film, it's actually his third feature film, Shiver of the Vampires, or Le Frison des Vampires, if you want to speak French.
Ooh,
Um, fancy, fancy.
sexier that way.
It is, that's a sexy language, isn't it? You think I
So
would use it
sexy.
more just to enchant people, but
Yeah.
like a vampire
You
would.
enchanted me. You got
I did.
me.
So it did work. So this film is about a young newlyweds arrive at like are on their honeymoon. They're going to the chateau where the bride is supposed to be like visiting her cousins. Well, they get there and it turns out the cousins are dead and they died yesterday.
God
Coincidentally,
damn it. I
arrived
hate it
just at
when
the
that
wrong time.
happens. Hate
Well,
it
it
when that
also
happens.
turns out that her cousins may be linked, or her family may be linked to vampires and vampirism. So while she's staying at this kind of castle, which I think they shot on location at a real castle, um, certain things go bump in the night. Certain vampires or certain creepy things come out and maybe manipulating her and her new husband, and wild things ensue. Things come out at night, if you will. But the second film, which is Two Orphan Vampires. Um, no big shocker here. The plot revolves around two orphan vampires,
Oh shit. Yeah,
where
you got me.
whereas where but they're kind of peculiar vampires, whereas they can walk around during the day, but they're blind during the day. But
Mm.
at night, they can see. And not only can they see, but they see everything in the world with a blue hue to them. And so when you're watching the film and it gets to nighttime, the aesthetic of the film changes to like this bluish hue, like you would see when you were watching kind of an old silent film. Like when you were watching like Nosferatu, I think the night scenes were had like a blue hue to them, and then the day scenes had a yellow hue to kind of signify day for day and night and things like
Yeah.
that. But it's just it's about them kind of hanging out at night. They hang out in cemeteries. They prey on people to kind of feed, and it's also like an existential journey of them just like existing as vampires and kind of seeing like their lives, and they're trying to like they're kind of just ruminating about previous lives because they don't really have solid memories of it. So they're just kind of listing through life. The movie really doesn't have a plot. I just love the vibe to it, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Jim Jarmusch like hangout vampire film, which he did do in
Yeah.
what's the film that he did, Steven?
Shit. It's
I'm gonna
fuck,
look it
fuck,
up
fuck,
right
fuck.
now.
Come on, Steven,
I
get it before
have
he
it
gets it.
actually.
I do too. I think. I know it's
How
got
can you
Tilda
pull it?
Swinton in it. Tilda
Tilda
Swinton
Swinton's in it. The
and
late.
Loki.
Oh yeah, he is in it. It's Only Lovers Left Alive.
Yeah. God damn it.
Yes. Yeah.
I couldn't
Which
get it out.
people don't talk about that movie enough. It's got It's got Tom Hiddleston. It's got, like you said, Tilda Swinton, John Hurt, Mia Wasikowska, the late Anton Yelchin, Jeffrey Wright's in the film. More people need to talk about that movie. I feel like it's slept on a bit. But this movie has that similar type of vibe to it.
Gotcha.
I dug it, so I'm kind of looking
Okay.
forward to both of these releases, but more so Two Orphan Vampires.
And of course, that this is Indicator's first foray into 4K,
It is indeed.
so it'll be exciting to see how it turns out, and I'm sure it'll turn out fantastic. If you want to actually get a little bit more recent info on the stuff at Indicator, the guys over at Indicator Cast just had John and Sam on a new episode that came out this week, so you get a little bit more info that maybe we didn't have when we had them on in December. So go over there and check that out. But yeah, I mean, it's exciting.
Excellent.
I've already made my pre-orders. I'm
Oh, I was
these
actually
are
just going to
these
ask you that. You read my
I
mind.
I got it, man. They're
Nice.
coming.
Nice pre-orders there. But let's take a trip to, I would say, the other side of the world.
Okay,
Let's go to Via Vision. Let's
let's
go
do it.
to Imprint because they had not one but two box sets plus a standalone release.
He
Steven, you want
almost
to go through
wonders
it?
why you want to do the standalone release. Why don't you just do two box sets?
I don't know.
It's
Maybe
kind of weird.
did it bother you that it's 11 movies and not like an even number? Does that stuff bother you?
Doesn't bother me. That doesn't
Okay.
bother me.
I didn't know if you had OCD like I do.
No, I don't have that. It's you and everybody else apparently. Like Ryan has that problem with when we talked about it when we were trying to keep up with how many categories there needed to be for Shelf Shock. He was like, it needs to be like a nice round number, like 30, 25. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. It can be 27. Like, I don't care. It just needs to be the right categories.
Mm, true.
But
But did you want to go through these releases?
sure. Okay, so we got as Andrew said, we got two box sets and a single release. Let's start with the single release. We already brought it up earlier, and that is the film called The Haunting of Julia, coming out April 26th. And then we have a, a return to film noir. We get our fourth collection of film essential film noirs. And the films, it looks like this is, I believe most of these have had 4 films in it, but this one actually has 5 films in it. They're doubling up on the last disc. And so this includes 1949's Rope of Sand, 1950's Appointment with Danger, 1951's The Enforcer, 1952's Beware My Lovely, and then also 1953's Jennifer. So yeah, I mean, I believe all these other ones have only had 4 films in it.
Yeah, and this
But
one technically only has 4 cases.
yeah,
So
4 cases.
it's not
Yeah,
gonna look odd on your shelf. Like it won't be bigger.
no, no.
It's 4 cases, but the 4th case has reversible sleeve, and both films are on one disc.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But Beware My Lovely and Jennifer on one disc. Um, so yeah, I mean that's of course more noir is always good. And then lastly, they've opened. It looks like they're bringing in a new line of once again more box sets and a new theme here. And this one is Tales of Adventure Collection 1. And so the films in this are going to be Arabian Nights. Let me see if I can get the years here. see, Arabian Nights from 1942. Then we have Desert Hawk from 1950. We have 1956 Zarak, and then we have 1957's Omar Khayyam. Um, and that's it. Yeah. So, and then we had
I
unless
think you
it's the
skipped one.
yeah, I
Yeah.
skipped one. Also we have 1,000. Yeah, 1945's 1,001 Nights. Um, yeah. So I mean, tons more here. I do any of this that you were able to check out? Because I mean,
Yeah, so a couple of things. So I guess go back to the beginning. The Essential Film Noir Collection 4. I think the first 3 are out of print and tough
yeah.
to get unless you wanna spend hundreds of
Well,
dollars.
yeah,
So,
it's out of print on imprint. You can
yes.
find. You can find. I've looked it up because I'm like I'm back and forth. I told Andrew the other day I was like
You
I don't.
have one of them.
I
Don't
have the
you?
first one.
Okay.
It was with the intention to buy the other ones, but at the time, as these last couple have come out, I haven't really had I haven't been in a position to drop the money for these.
Yeah, they're not
Um,
cheap.
yeah, they're not. But right now, I've found I mean, Amazon has them, and yeah, they're right around. They're like $100, sometimes a little more. That's a lot, but they're out there, so you can
You can
still
find
get
them.
them.
Yeah.
So, but they're a lot. I mean, if you really want them, you can get them. They're just not at the imprint site anymore. They've been out at the imprint site for a while, I believe. But yeah, I mean, it's out there. They're out there. The first one's probably the one that's the toughest to find. But the 2 and 3 are out there still. So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
But, on also another thing, the first 3 films in this set, Rope of Sand, Appointment with Danger, and The Enforcer all had Blu-ray releases here in Region A land by Olive Films, and I think around the 2012 to 2013 corridor. I remember Olive Films had put out their own film noir like collection box set, and it and 2 of the films were in there, and then they released them individually, and then they released another one individually themselves. But Beware My Lovely and Jennifer, I don't think have a release here at all. At least that's just me guessing right now, that I could find. So these have been around before. The difference being is these do come with new special features.
yeah.
Um, I think each of these have a new commentary, or at least, um, 4 out of 5 of them have a new commentary. Jennifer doesn't, as well as a new interview with at least someone. So that's what you get, new special features,
I
a new
also
4K scan for
I
most
was
of
gonna
these as
say.
well.
I was gonna say it looks like these all have new 4K scans from
Yeah,
2021. So these are
it's
definitely
gonna look a hell
picture
of a lot better
upgrades.
than those, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day,
So
Olive Films was never a company that had the means to do kind of new restorations or new scans or anything like that. They really didn't have the money, I don't even think, to do anything with special features, at least until they got to their signature collection line of films. They haven't put out a release since like 2020. It's I'm pretty sure they just don't do anything anymore. So a lot of their licenses are obviously coming up or have lapsed already. So you'll see a lot of re-releases of their stuff. So I guess maybe hence why some of these are here, but this is also a different country, different set of distribution. The Tales of Adventure collection, though, this is something that's kind of unique and new. um, I can tell you that I did get to see Arabian Nights, and Arabian Nights is actually Universal's first Technicolor film. It's the first time they had made a film in Technicolor. Now,
nice.
Technicolor had been around for a little while, obviously most known for like um, The Wizard of Oz, and of course, um, uh, Gone with the Wind, and then even uh, what's the name? Michael Powell and Rick Pressburger had played with
Red
Technicolor for
shoes.
their films, Red Shoes, as well as a lot of stuff like that. So Technicolor had been around for a while already. Universal was jumping on that Technicolor train, the three-strip Technicolor specifically. So and the movie itself is kind of like this sprawling epic adventure. They did call it an adventure box set for a reason. And it's dealing with like a story from the Arabian Nights and an adaptation of one of those stories. I didn't get to see the other ones in here, but they all look like lots of fun, and I think they all, um, I want to say they're all coming from at least 2K scans. Yeah, at brand new 2K scans, like 2023 scans for
Mm,
a lot of these, which is kind of incredible.
yeah.
Yeah, so, and of course the film noir set as well. I got to watch Rope of Sand starring Burt Lancaster, so I had to watch that. Enforcer stars Humphrey Bogart. I had to watch that, and Appointment with Danger stars Alan Ladd. So I kind of went with the stars on this one to kind of be
Mm.
like, who do I want to like spend my time watching? Um, I went with those stars. Imprint's putting out a lot of Burt Lancaster, just
Not gonna complain.
randomly.
Not gonna
Just
complain.
not gonna complain either, not at all.
Come back, little
But
Sheba. That shit's good.
yeah, very, very good. But yeah, this is a solid release slate. And getting down to The Haunting of Julia, like we just said, Shout Factory's putting out their 4K version of it, but this is coming with a CD soundtrack, which has the I believe from the composer of the film. It's also coming with a 3D lenticular hard case with a special collector's booklet. And this is got a bunch of new special features. Audio
It says new
commentary.
and exclusive.
Yeah, so you notice how they put that in bold,
Yeah.
exclusive. Remember what I was just saying that these were all going to have different special features? There you go.
Yep.
New commentary, and then that looks like one, two, three interviews, exclusive interviews, and an exclusive video essay by Kat Ellinger. And
They went all. They
that may
went
have
all.
dissuaded the audience.
They went all out on this shit. They were
That may
like
have
that
dissuaded
Shout
the
Factory
audience
release.
for this
They're gonna
release.
suck it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I kind of yeah. And I did get to see the film. Actually, the film is, if you want to watch it, is on YouTube right now. You can actually watch the whole thing.
Oh, okay.
It's a movie starring Mia Farrow. I've read this from someone on Letterboxd, so it's not my interpretation of the film, but it's a kind of a combination of Rosemary's Baby and The Changeling, where
Okay.
it's got that vibe to it. Yet again, not my interpretation, but it feel if that was as accurate as I could get with this. Um, Mia Farrow is playing someone who her child has just died, and she's kind of dealing with all of that grief, all of that anguish, all of the mental stress of having to deal with that, and there she moves into this new place, and there may be some supernatural hauntings going on that play into all of that. Is it in her mind? Is it real? Is she seeing like ghosts from the past that are similar to her situation? What's the deal here? And it's a very creepy, very
What's the
type of
deal?
movie.
Thought you
That
just did
type of movie.
some Seinfeld there.
I did hear you say that.
What's the deal?
And Mia Farrow plays it well. I noticed some people in Letterboxd did not like the score of the film. It's a rather haunting, rather like nerve bending type of score that maybe it is there to annoy you. I don't know, but then I saw other people love it, saying best
Yeah.
score ever. So I don't
That
know
sound.
how one
That sounds
interprets
like
that.
the internet. That sounds like the internet.
It does sound like the internet, but yeah, that's. I like The Haunting of Julia more than I like the other title, was it Full Circle? Yeah,
Uh-huh.
not a great title in my opinion, but yeah, that's everything from Imprint
All
for what is
right.
this? Their March slate? I don't even remember.
Uh, no, April. It's their April slate.
Their April slate. Okay, so I guess we come to the grand finale of it all, Stephen.
Yes, we do. We have Arrow Videos April releases,
Yes, we do.
and I would say there's a lot of familiar here, but it's also some cool stuff here. Stuff you've seen, but there's going to get some new additions and some more availability to the rest of the world. So we'll start here with one that recently got an in-print release, the Assassination Bureau. I know you've seen this one. It's got
I own
Oliver
it.
Reed. Are you
It's
on
around here somewhere.
you have the in-print release?
I do have it. It was one of those where they announced it was going out of print, so I immediately bought it. And I don't. Oh, I think I found it.
This
I do
is an
have it.
audio.
Yeah, I do have it. So for those of you listening, I'm holding it up to the screen now to
Oh,
show
that
Steven.
makes see it
Yeah,
so
to
much
show
better.
Steven, and I
Let me
do have it.
describe it. It's red and it's
Mhm.
green, it's pink, and it says imprint in the corner. It says Assassination Bureau.
I'm pretty
Okay,
sure
now you
people
got
can
the
just look
visual.
up the image.
Yeah, I know.
But I'll say this, I'm pretty sure this is going to be, the same exact transfer on this release. I think it's actually gonna have similar special features, um, uh but the one thing that this won't have is I know it's on here, and that's Diana Rigg, a tribute visual essay by Kat Ellinger. That is not on this Arrow release that's coming out. That is
Well,
only
there's
on this Assassination Bureau imprint release.
well
So
this
for those of you who already have it, I don't think you're gonna need to to buy this release,
well
unfortunately.
there is a brand new audio commentary here with Sean Hogan and Kim Newen.
Yeah, that's
So
the only thing that's the real difference. I think that Right Film Wrong Time, a 30-minute appreciation by Matthew Sweet, um maybe something new, I'm not sure. Probably should look that up. But anywho, while I'm looking that up, you go through the rest of it.
okay, and so next what we have, and that's a U.S. Canada release. Next, what we have is another one that's gotten a release, and that is the Jackie Chan film Heart of Dragon, or the alternate cover they have here is called First Mission. Um, and yeah, it's previously been put out by 88 Films in the UK. So um, more Jackie Chan's always good. We also have Sonny Chiba trilogy here. We have the Street Fighter trilogy, and we've been getting a lot of Sonny Chiba lately, so that's good. And then we also have some slasher stuff here. We got Lover's Lane, which is something that's I like to cover. And then lastly, we have I think which is kind of the spotlight release of the slate, and that is David Cronenberg's Naked Lunch getting a 4K restoration on it, 4K release. And I believe a couple different editions of artwork. I think there's like an exclusive to the Arrow store version, and then there's also the more worldwide. Of course, it being 4K, it's region free. So, but there are well, there are actually 3 discs on this. Oh wait, no, sorry, looking at the wrong thing. 2 discs, and one of them I believe being the Blu-ray. So that will probably be region B locked. But yeah, where are we at, Andrew?
Nice. Okay, yeah. So I did look it up. Um, Coincidentally, my whole browser froze there for a second, so I had to wait. Um, so yeah, the Diana Rigg tribute, and then there's a Kim Newman on the Assassination Bureau. Those are exclusive to the imprint release, and then the Arrow release, as Steven has said, has a brand new audio commentary, and then Right Film Wrong Time, a 30-minute appreciation by critic Matthew Sweet is on the Arrow release, and that's not on the imprint release. So same release, same movie, pretty sure same transfer, different special features.
Gotcha.
That
Yeah.
seems to be it. Um, but I can say for these other releases, the Street Fighter has already had a a trilogy collection released here in the U.S. by Shout Factory a couple of years ago in 2019, and that's actually a collection that I was looking at getting, but now I guess I can get this um Arrow release instead. I'm pretty sure they have the same 2K transfers as well as a couple of the same special features being lifted over, and the special features only really pertain to the first film and not so much the sequels.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, the reason why I remember these films is I'm pretty sure Christian Slater's character in True Romance is at a movie theater watching like a marathon of the Street Fighter films uh, in that movie, and that's how he meets Patricia Arquette's character Alabama for the first time. Uh, and I remember that because I rewatched that 4K with like last year. and I was like, "Oh, I wanna watch what he's watching." I don't know if that ever happens to you, Steven, where you see somebody watching a movie in a movie, and you're like,
Yeah.
"What is that movie?"
No, I have. Yeah, definitely. And sometimes I know it's always fun when you know the movie.
Yeah.
You're like, "Ah, yeah, I know that movie. That's a good one." You know? A lot of times they throw stuff like that in and, it's obscure and probably the first time you've seen the movie, you did, early on, you'll say, it's a movie that you grew up on, you didn't know what they were watching, then you get older and you're like, "Ah, I know what that is now."
Yeah, I know.
Kind of fun.
That
Yeah.
is kind of fun. I will say this about the hour release for these movies. They are all I think the first 2 have a brand new audio commentary. I think the audio interview with Sonny Chiba on the first film is the same one on the Shout Factory release. Um, and yeah, there's a brand new audio commentary on the second film. And then the third film, which and that seems to happen a lot with a lot of these trilogy sets, is that the third film doesn't get much in the way of special features. I see that very often. It's got all it has is an image gallery, uh, unfortunately.
Mm,
Um, so Heart of Dragon is directed by Sammo Hung, starring Sammo Hung as well as Jackie Chan. So the idea is that this would be an action-packed, spectacular. You've got two great on-screen martial artists who are known for doing great action films, but what you get is more of a drama, and they play up the drama pretty well and ends up becoming kind of a genuine heartfelt film where Jackie Chan's character has to take care of his younger brother, I think younger brother, who is portrayed by Sammo Hung. And Sammo Hung has like mental developmental issues where he um, kind of has the mind of a child, essentially, kind of
yeah.
that developmental mentality. And he kind of just spends his days hanging out with other children and whatnot. And um, and so his brother feels very beholden to him. His brother kind of has put his life on hold when it comes to personal relationships, even though he has a girlfriend, but he can't really like take a next step with her. He can't really go on vacation with her. He can't do the things that he wants to do in his life because he has to take care of his brother and Sammo Hung. So the film very much plays towards that angle the whole time. There are some action sequences that are great and awesome. There's a great third act car chase scene. It's a lot of third act action and whatnot. Some action sprinkled here or there, but not as much as you would think when it comes to a film like this. So that's kind of what I found very surprising about the movie. I don't know why it's called First Mission though. Well, I don't know why they went with that title. As really doesn't have anything to do with a mission or a first mission or anything like that. He is Jackie Chan's character is like a police officer or a detective in it. It also has another title that I completely forgot, but it also had nothing to do with the movie whatsoever. It's just baffling to me. Um, uh, Also, really has nothing to do with dragons either. I don't know why we call Heart of Dragon.
That's a cultural thing.
Probably.
Dragon, dragons are all in the Chinese culture.
Very true.
But
Um,
Naked Lunch is the big one here.
yes, it is.
David Cronenberg. I had to be honest. This is one of my least favorite David Cronenberg, and it's probably because
Really?
probably because it is so out there. Um, and there's nothing wrong with out there movies. I like some out there movies, but for some reason, and I have only seen this the one time, but when I watched it, I was like, I don't think this is for me. Out of all the Cronenbergs, I don't think this one's for me. And maybe I just need to go back, or maybe it's just not going to be for me. But I just know it's out there. It's a weird one.
Yeah, it's an adaptation of um a book by William Burroughs, his kind of quasi autobiography. It's also notoriously a book that is kind of unadaptable. So it really led people to kind of scratching their heads. It's like how is Cronenberg going to adapt this? And I think Cronenberg ultimately ended up taking elements from it, but I think kind of doing his own thing as Cronenberg does.
Yeah,
And I know specifically for me, this was one of the first Criterions I ever owned on DVD was Naked Lunch.
and I've
I
never
remember
gotten this. This is one of the criterions of Cronenberg I've never gotten. So
really, this was one of my first ones that I ever bought on DVD. and it's one of the first Criterions I probably ever saw, and it's probably not the best one to start out with because it is a trip of a movie starring Peter Weller. Um, there's there's like there's so many elements to this movie. It's impossible to describe in any like rational way. There's mugwumps, there's mugwumpjism, there's a talking typewriter that looks like an anus. I mean, it's really out there when it comes to when it comes to Cronenberg and comes to all that stuff. It's a trip of a movie. I've been wanting to read the Naked Lunch book for years, but I hear it's a difficult read. William Burroughs, um, an interesting individual in and of himself. We talked a little bit about him when we talked about uh, the um, the film that Barfly, which was the movie that was put out by Imprint in a
Yeah.
big deluxe set, Barfly, where um, Mickey Rourke is playing a kind of version of William S. Burroughs, kind of based on his life, and yeah, so it's a unusual film. I can tell you straight up that the the Blu-ray for that came out from Criterion came out in 2013. The DVD was years earlier than that, and I'm pretty sure they just carried over the special features from that DVD. So hopefully, this is, I would assume, all new special features or just a lot of special features in general.
Yeah.
I haven't done a side by side comparison, but once again, new audio commentaries in there and a bunch of other stuff. Um, yeah, there was just a lot of stuff on that Criterion Blu-ray as well. So there's a lot of Cronenberg here to come around to go around. And I know recently they did
Crash.
another, yeah, they did Crash. But
Yeah.
I thought they had done another Cronenberg film. No, maybe it was Crash. Um
Well, yeah. No, they did David, uh, the other David's, Lynch.
oh
They did some David
did
Lynch.
they did do David Lynch. I also do want to mention that I think our friend of the show, Scott Saslow, did the layout and booklet layout for this release as well. I saw him post that a couple of days ago when
Yeah.
this was announced. I like the artwork on it a lot. Like that's it's a
Yeah, I do too.
pretty great artwork.
And
That is, I'm pretty sure that's a mugwump. I think that's what a mugwump is.
well,
I
I
haven't
don't.
seen the movie in over a decade, so don't quote me on any of this.
Well, I'm a Cronenberg guy, and I'm probably gonna buy this, and then this kind of puts me over the edge to finally buy it because it's 4K. And this is a nice package compared to the Criterion version. So, um, this might be put me over the edge to finally get this movie, even though I don't know if I really am gonna like it. I love Cronenberg, so I
I was
need
gonna
all
ask you,
Cronenberg.
when was the last time you saw it? Was it years
Probably
ago?
as long ago as you did. I
Yeah,
probably
like 10 years ago?
something like that. Probably 10, maybe a little less than that. Maybe like 8 or 7, 8 years ago. But I just remember watching it, and being like, I don't fucking understand this. Like what? My mind's different now. I watch a lot more difficult stuff
Yeah.
now, and
And this is gonna be a new
maybe I'll be more into it. But it's
yeah, this is gonna have a new 4K restoration. It's gonna look good. Or
yeah,
you'll get all of that, the gooiness, the body horror stuff,
anus
all that stuff from
typewriters.
Cronenberg.
Yeah,
In this, I do want to talk about Lover's Lane. Lover's Lane is a late '90s in that teenage like slasher type subgenre of the time. It takes a lot of influence from like I Know What You Did Last Summer was the one that really kind of got to me. Scream, of course, where just a lot of these teen slasher films. But this movie is kind of like a B C movie. um, I will say this though, I believe it is the actress's Anna Faris's first film. This came out a year before she was in Scary Movie, and of course she was in a couple of those sequels, and before she was in other things. She's in this film as one of the teenagers that's getting caught up in all of this. So the premise of this movie is that once again, someone from a local um, psychiatric hospital, insane asylum, whatever you want to see, who has been locked up there for years, has escaped, and he kills his victims with a hook for a hand, a la like I just said, I Know What You Did Last Summer. I believe that was what that killer did as well.
yeah,
But the kicker with this is that the reason why he is in that insane asylum is that some years earlier he had kind of killed, I think, the the parents of one of the kids or two of the kids that he's now preying on now. There's the connection. And you see that in the opening of the film is that inciting incident, and then you flash forward however many years, and now the next generation has to deal with this killer. Anna Faris is in this. Like I said, the only other actress that I recognized was probably an actress I only really know, but maybe other people know, is the actress Sarah Lancaster, who was in the television show Chuck.
Mm,
She played Chuck's sister
yeah.
in that show, and that's kind of where I know her from. She's plays yet again one of the teenagers that are one of the potential victims.
All right.
So yeah, so it's like a B/C movie slasher. It's fun. It's not great. Eh, it's not
Just
good.
throw away.
It gets entertaining and then it gets kind of boring. Kind of a throwaway, if you will. But the artwork looks a lot better than the actual movie is.
Yeah,
But
sometimes that's
it's
what
for
you got to do.
if you're
Yeah.
a fan of slashers,
Yeah. It's another one. Well, that
I think
is
that's
the
it.
that's it. That's it for this week's slate of releases. A lot of good stuff. A lot of good things coming out. I think I'm mostly excited for them that indicator stuff. That indicator 4K Jean Roland stuff is looking interesting to me. And
Same here. I'm also interested to see how their 4Ks look. You
yeah,
know what I mean? 4K
definitely.
is a whole kind of new thing for them. A lot of other companies have had great success. A lot of their stuff looks great. I
Yeah.
want to see if, Indicator. I have a feeling Indicator is going to carry that torch pretty well because their Blu-rays already look pretty damn good.
Well, they're just so they care very much about their reputation,
Yeah,
so
they're perfectionists there a
they
bit.
don't put out something until it's right, and we know that just based off of the Michael J. Murphy set that's finally coming out, that
Yes.
they waited until it was exactly the way they wanted before they put it out.
I
Um,
see a lot of people getting that now, and I can't wait to see kind of the reviews start rolling out just to see just the size of that thing.
oh yeah, I mean, there's definitely some early reviews already out there. I think from some outlets. I know Nathaniel Thompson's already put out a review for it, I believe, over at Mondo Digital. But mine's on the way.
Oh,
Mine's
nice.
mine should be hopefully to me maybe by the end of this week. We'll see, but you know, yeah, maybe I'll maybe if I have the time, maybe I'll do a monthly slate. I got a good chunk of things coming here this week. Maybe I'll group it all together and do a monthly pickup video. Maybe I haven't. We'll see. See what I got. A couple things here that I could talk about, but that is it for spy number 84 of Chasing Labels. Um, thanks, Andrew. Thanks for talking movies again with me.
Oh, no problem. It's what I do every week. I
Yeah,
gotta get this outlet out somewhere.
yeah. You
So that's it for 84. We will. Do you want to tell people where they can find us online?
do they really want to find us? I mean, do
I hope so.
I hope they do. Um,
Just talking into the wind.
I guess you can find me at Facebook, Stephen Billings. You can find me at the other Chasing Labels pages, whether it be our Twitter, our Instagram, or my Letterboxd, which is I disconnected the Chasing Labels part of it because I was like, "Why? I'm just going to make it me." So just Stephen Billings over at Letterboxd. Andrew, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Kevzilla06, as well as our YouTube channel, Chasing Labels.
And you can find the audio for the podcast at Podbean, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and other places. Thanks again for listening. And hey, keep on watching them movies.
I know I will.